Okay, and the other thing is I can't do a stream next week because I have to work. So I figure there just won't be one for next week's race, unless you really want to do it. We'll just update people on the results the week afterwards. So I'll just make mention of that in our closing piece. All right. So we'll count down. Oh, Roadhog. Oh, that's a big crash. That's at the C-section. Bang. Just try to stop it. Good luck. Well, this is a lot louder when I play it through my Getty. It's getting me hyped, Madbird. I'm yelling to compete with it in my ears. Yep. The build up. It's only 55 seconds to go. It's so loud. Words can't describe how it is, mate. Yeehaw! Turn 2. The C-section. Try to stop. I don't bloody care. Wi-Fi password? Adelaide hairpin. Whoa. Very good evening to you wherever you're watching around the country or indeed the world. This is round 4 of Apex Rear Wing Season 10. We're here in Casbah Milne. You may not have heard my voice for a while. My name's Stairs. I'm filling in for Matt Dunlop tonight, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Madbird to the commentary box.
Thank you very much, Stairs. Hello, everybody. We are here at Casbah Milne, which is another track made by the incomparable Roadhog 29389, who is one of our racers, and we've had a lot of luck with a lot of good luck in terms of racing and just fun track design with the other tracks that we've raced by Roadhog, haven't we, Stairs?
We absolutely have. I've still got that image in my mind of Resist and Xerus going side by side through the tunnel at Place City Circuit a couple of seasons ago.
In the Caterhams, yeah, very, very close racing in the Caterhams, much like in these cars for season 9, the 1986 Opala Brazilian stock cars.
That's right.
So,
and we've got a championship leader who's not Xerus, the first time for a couple of seasons since the DRM season where Xerus hasn't led for more than one round. And it is Brenton Foley leading the way on 396 points. Xerus is nipping at his heels on 379. That's been seesawing a little bit. Goofball Antics, who has been a bit of a revelation in the post-race interviews, is in third place, ahead of Berto. Then we've got Resist, Sam Smith, Scott Murrell in his first season with Apex Rear Wing, Roadhog, the champion of the racetrack designer for tonight, Nether, and then Bagsy rounds out the top 10 in the points classification there, Madbird.
Yeah, so Scott Murrell doing quite well. He's sort of always been fighting for the places just outside the podium, so I don't think he's too far off getting his first podium in Apex Rear Wing, which, considering he's only been racing for us for 2 rounds, is nothing to sneeze at. And yeah, Brenton Foley with the championship lead at the moment. as we jump out on track. He is about 0.2 of a second behind Xeris in qualifying times, but as we saw last week, it doesn't matter what you do during practice, because if you bin your lap during qualifying like Xeris did, it all comes to naught.
And Foley's got up to speed fairly quickly around this track. We just noticed on the split for the current lap that he's on that he is actually on target to beat the lap set by Xeris as he locks up into the try to stop corner at the bottom of the hill there.
Yeah, so being a Roadhog track, he doesn't actually have any names. He is still up, Brenton Foley. We don't actually have any names for the corners around this circuit, as now. Brenton Foley goes through. I don't bloody care. But we have made up some track corner names.
Yeah, we'll get an onboard lap shortly and go through with you what those corner names are. But we'll just follow the progress of Brenton Foley here to see if he beats the lap time of Xeris.
It's looking pretty good, and he crosses the line. He does, in fact, beat it by 0.07 of a second. So these cars seem to really be suiting Brenton Foley, who's very good at maintaining momentum through the corners in a very different way to Xeris. Xeris is quite smooth and clean, whereas Brenton Foley tends to get the back out a little bit. But by doing that, he can keep his foot in it. And whoa! As we see him have a huge moment going through the C section, and that was a little bit messy.
Yeah, commentator's curse coming in early in tonight's.
I'd rather get it out of the way in practice.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Absolutely fair enough. So I think we've got trying to see who's on track, who's close to starting a lap, so we can jump on board. But I think we got Sam Smith, in fact. So let's jump on board here with Sam Smith as he comes across the start-finish line to start a new lap of this Casbah Milne circuit. Now, this first corner here, you can see the wall pinches on the inside, on the outside, I should say. You've got to be careful there. That's the Yeehaw corner. Then going up the hill and up through the gears, setting yourself on the right-hand side of the track for turn 2, the left-hand 90-degree corner. A little bit of rear instability as he comes out of the corner and into the C section that you referred to along there. And here you can probably see why it's called the C section, as Sam Smith goes well off the track. Absolute meal he's made of that one.
Oh, and, my goodness.
Wow. So that's not gone too well. Our first attempt at taking you on board through a lap of Casbah Milne has gone awry.
I reckon if you hop on board with the iRambo, he is picking up just after the C section, and he is going up the long straight into what we're calling try to stop, and you'll be able to see why we call it that as he comes into a very heavy braking zone into the right angle corner. He's done quite well, actually. Gets it nice up and on the curb, and down the sort of second leg of this inverted L, and down into the tight right hand. Lots of right-angled right-hand corners into I don't bloody care. And then...
Sorry, man, but go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say into sort of the turn 8 from Coda from Istanbul Park, rather, which we're calling Wi-Fi password.
Yes. And then this one we've called the Adelaide Hairpin, because I think it reminds us of that final corner at the Adelaide Street Circuit, Madbird, which is currently unemployed.
It is. Roadhog did say that the track could possibly have been in South Australia, so we'll put our stamp on that one. But yes, no Super Loop 500 next year, or potentially ever again. From what I'm hearing all sorts of stuff. Yeah. And Labor reckon if they get in, they'll bring it back and this, that, and the other. And
I reckon the Shahins don't want another race in South Australia, and so
yeah,
they're trying to cement the Bend as an event that is a bit more permanent. And I wouldn't be surprised if that is the case, because I don't know that Adelaide or South Australia has the appetite for 2 major supercars events, as much as the supercars fans would think it's some sort of utopia.
Yeah, it's I mean, I've never been into the V8s in general. I watch Bathurst, and that's pretty much it. And I've never been to the Clipsal or the Superloop, so I've got no memories or anything really attached to it. So all I know is that it'll make getting around a tiny bit easier come March Madness, which is swiftly becoming just about the same as every other month.
Well,
so
I did, before this whole thing happened, I did hear whispers of it moving to November, which I think would have been a sensible choice, and having the Adelaide 500 as the final event of the Supercars calendar, I think that would have been really cool.
Well, it used to be the final Grand Prix in the Formula One Championship,
That's
didn't
right.
it, Adelaide? Quite often, so...
It was very much a party atmosphere in Formula One. They loved coming to this event. If it wasn't the championship decider, it was still a very fun event.
Yeah, I remember reading that pamphlet written by Martin Brundle that you lent to me. His sort of his autobiography, and he said that everyone loved Adelaide, and Adelaide always felt like a city that welcomed them, whereas most street circuits or circuits near cities, the people living in the city were sort of like, ugh,
Yeah.
Formula One's here.
Baku welcomed them all.
Well, they did. Well done, Baku, as well. I think Baku has surpassed all expectations in terms of the races it's had there.
I'm very happy to see it Baku on the calendar next year. Well, there's a few other circuits I'm not particularly happy to see back on the calendar for next year. Although Interlagos.
Now, can we have COVID every year? Not the pandemic, but the resulting season in terms of tracks has been fantastic.
Yeah. Well, for all their talk of doing reverse grids and shaking up the format, all they had to do was go to some good racetracks.
Yeah, some racetracks that... I think a lot of it was probably that because they're racetracks they've never been to before, they had no data to draw on. So I think over time they would probably become just as optimized as the regular circuits.
Well, maybe they should have a roster of like 40 circuits that they go to, and a lot of them
rotate
just have
through
one every 2 years or so, like they used to do with Hockenheim and the Nürburgring. And so every time
they could do it. They could do it like we do it at Apex Rewing, where if you use a track in one season, you can't use it for the next 2 seasons.
Yeah. That way,
I'm sure they'd love that idea.
Could share races. We could have one in Adelaide and then one in Melbourne.
Yeah, and you could have one in Hockenheim, one in Germany. Oh, sorry, one in Nürburgring.
And then the predominant model for the sport making money would not be on them taking exorbitant hosting rights fees. It would just be from the fans. But
Incredible.
I talk of some sort of utopia that doesn't exist, except when we have a global pandemic which endangers the lives of millions of people.
Yeah, so it's well, I was going to say it's win-win for everybody, but it's not.
So we're about 13 minutes into this broadcast, and we've already strayed well off topic, Manbird. But this is what I do. I'm a distracting influence.
We've got about 4 minutes left in this practice session. Xeris has retaken the top of the timesheets by about 1/10 of a second, so it's still quite close at the top of the board.
I would race F1 around this circuit.
Oh my god. Can you imagine the C section?
The thing that I think is going to cause drama is the way that the wall pinches on the exit of the first corner. That
Someone's going to try to go side by side through there.
That static camera really shows it well as they go through there. There's very little room there. It is, as you said, single file, or not particularly conducive to side by side action, and that makes it single file.
Well, quite. I reckon the C section, if the corners were slightly more spaced apart, I think that could be a really great little section of back and forth, because you're on the inside for one corner, but then it turns into the outside for the next, and so on and so forth through about 4 or 5 corners in quick succession. But I think they're a bit too close.
Yeah, I think we'll just have a look at Tyrrell going through the C section, because when we were on board with Sam Smith, he made an absolute Picasso of it. So here is Tyrrell going through the C section, which we didn't quite get to see in all its glory last time. Tyrrell keeping to the black stuff, which is what we like to see.
He's done quite well. Yeah,
He
it's
on cold tyres.
It's sort of on very cold tyres. It's like almost like 3 chicanes like mashed together.
Yeah, there's a little bit of the corkscrew from Laguna Seca in it. There's a little bit of
I could see
the
that.
Adelaide Street Circuit chicane in there probably. And of course throw in a bit of elevation to it as well. It's all over the place, which is good. That's what a C-section is.
All over the place. Brenton 369 in the chat just saying tiny glitch with the track. Some of the cars are having their outlap counted as a timed lap, so just keep that in mind for qualifying. Thank you for the feedback. So I mean, that shouldn't matter. Shouldn't matter for qualifying.
It might matter in terms of what we see on the timing screens.
Well, that's true, but only for the first lap in terms of their outlap.
A lot of cars going wide at that final corner, over that white
The Adelaide
line.
hairpin.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can pick someone up going through there. Ira Rambo's just coming through Wi-Fi password as we speak.
Let's see if we can find him.
So he's coming down into the Adelaide hairpin. So going wide on the exits.
Yeah, so
there is quite a lot of tarmac there.
Yeah, Rambo's stayed within the bounds of the track there, but a lot of them are taking to that sort of apron on the entry to the pit lane, all 4 wheels over the white line, which hasn't been outlawed, I must stress, so it's in theory okay to do that.
Yeah, and it is the entrance to the pit lane, so I guess it can't really be considered track cut, or like it can't be considered track extending because the cars have to be able to use it. So I doubt that the game is smart enough to realise that if someone, that's Scott Murrell comes unstuck going through the C-section. Very well done to Ira Rambo for avoiding him.
Just becoming acquainted with this circuit, was driving home from work just minutes before this broadcast started, Madbird.
Yeah, from his job in the fire service. So thank you to him for his service as we see a replay of him coming unstuck. During qualifying, we'll have to get an onboard from inside the cockpit going through that section because it is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, very much places a premium on skills, doesn't it?
It does, which the skill base is pretty high, I reckon, in Apex Rear Wing.
Especially this
compared
season.
to like a pubby lobby or something. Yeah, especially this season.
We're seeing Xeris being challenged legitimately for the championship, and not to say that he wasn't being challenged in the other seasons that we've had. I think the closest he came in recent seasons to being beaten was the DRM season where Goofball Antics looked like he was going to win that championship, and Sam Smith and Birdo won races as well. But he came good. He got stronger as that season went on. He came to grips with the car. But with this season, we thought he had it, and I was, for one, thinking that he might be completely undefeated in this series. But Brenton Foley, who was good in the other cars that we did that placed a premium on momentum, which was the Caterhams, he's definitely taking the fight to Xeris.
Yeah, he definitely is. I was about to mention the Caterhams, where that was Brenton Foley's first season, I reckon, with us. And he was usually having a nuts to butts battle with Xeris every single race, but Xeris managed to come out on top on most of those occasions. A very dominant season for Xeris that was, so quite different this time around.
So we've moved into the qualifying session. We've got Tyrrell sitting at the end of the pit lane, ready to start his outlap for the qualifying session. Reverse order, of course, from practice. One by one, they all set their laps. They only have one go at it, so any track extending or mistakes, and that is their lap done. So it is pertinent to continue your lap if you do make a mistake, because there could always be someone else who makes a worse mistake.
Yep, or it does not set a lap full stop if they get a track cut, or if they, I don't think we've seen a huge accident on a shootout lap, but if someone did total their car, then they would start from the back.
We saw a lot of track cuts in the Surface Paradise race, didn't we, Madbird?
We did, including Xeris, including who else? Roadhog, I think, and Rambo maybe. But Xeris was the big one who threw his lap away and ended up starting from the back of the first race, which is a pretty big deficit to overcome, even for someone as quick as Xeris.
2 races tonight, 2 30-minute super sprint races, and so very much, well, I don't know what I was going to say there, but very much the same sort of format that we've had for a couple of the other rounds. They will start the second race from the order that they finished the first race.
Yeah, and 30 minutes being probably will need a pit stop in each race. I didn't get any fuel or tyre information from the drivers during the practice session, but based on previous weeks, about 20-25 minutes is about the limit on fuel. So unless they're fuel saving for the whole thing, which I'm sure a couple will try to do, I reckon we'll probably expect at least one pit stop for everybody, as Tyrrell goes very deep,
very wide at turn 2. He gave a lot of margin at the Yeehaw corner, but turn 2 was less forgiving to him. Into the C-section now. Oh dear. He's bolted wide at the first part of the C-section.
Very wide.
And that's exactly what Scott Murrell did about 5 minutes ago. And he's going into the wall from there. And that's not a good start. Tyrrell has aborted his lap at the C-section.
So there you go. So Tyrrell will be starting from the back. So if someone has a mare of an outlap and sets a time that's 20 seconds down on the leader, they will still start ahead of Tyrrell. So as you were saying, important to finish your lap regardless of how far down you are, because it can definitely make a difference if there's a few people with track cuts.
Well, our attention turns now to the Rhodium Master, Ben Rhodes, Rhodey for PBF Race Engineering.
Rhodium.
In the Caltex livery. Beautiful design there from Brenton Foley.
Yeah, so part of PBF Race Engineering, but not sort of the main team. Similar livery, but not quite the same.
He doesn't want to be. Foley doesn't want to have Rhodey's car mistaken for his.
No. Good few rounds for Rhodey. He's been pretty consistent, and he's been finishing races, which is always good.
Yeah, he actually, as much as we kid, he has made a marked improvement in the last year. You saw him square the corner off. Oh, that's very close to the wall, and he hits the wall at the Yeehaw corner. There's going to be some damage there.
Yeah, that was. And he's immediately pulled over, and that's
Why didn't he keep going?
Out of. That is. He must have had either very bad damage, or perhaps he got a track cut for that. He was a bit off the track coming out of turn 1. So that's 2 for 2.
You would have thought
the wall abandoned their track.
You would have thought the wall would keep them inbound, since the pit lane exit is on the other side of that wall. But you're right. We've had 2 runners and no one's set a lap yet.
Yep. Next up will be Zarlingier, so we'll get to see if he can manage to finish a lap, which is a feat that we have not seen accomplished so far in this shootout.
Yeah, no one's rocked the Casbah so far. So Zarlingier coming down the back straight here, on the way down to try to stop, and he's the one who coined.
I feel like they get some air coming down that straight by the looks of it.
They do. It's a little bit like Conrod, except imagine that the Murray's corner is immediately after the crest instead of the chase. So they've got to slam the anchors on. Try to stop. Actually, the name came from Zarlingier.
Didn't Conrad used to go all the way down to Murray's, and then they put the chase in?
That's right, they did.
Probably because it was dangerous.
Well, it was a bit dangerous. I think someone had a crash down the Dunlop Bridge there, and I think it was Denny Holm. He actually had a heart attack as well while he was driving the car down Conrad Straight and died. And so they put the chase in to slow the cars down. They put the fastest corner in Australian motorsport.
Fastest corner in Australian motorsport. I don't think anyone's got their Scaife bingo cards out still, but if you do, Roadie got a track cut on the inside of turn 1 on the curb. We're being told in the chat by Brenton Foley. So
too much curb. I wonder, that must have sent him directly into the fence because he took a lot of speed into the corner. See if anyone can navigate the C-section because we haven't seen one yet.
This looks pretty good.
Yeah. Now he's 2.7 seconds off, but that's of a time that we don't have yet. So whatever time Zollinger puts on the board, it will be provisional pole.
And behind him is Rambo beginning his outlap. So you can just see that flash of red in the far distance in the wide shot there. Little puff of a lock up as he comes over the crest. Goes a little bit wide.
Yeah, just
looks like he
the apex.
Looked like he got it pulled up in time.
He's 4.5 seconds off, but I don't know what of. We haven't had a time yet through the second
Might
sector.
be based off of the practice session time, perhaps. Perhaps
So,
a doodle.
Coming through Wi-Fi password, and then into Adelaide. Slams the anchors on. Bit of a yellow flag. That's probably someone at the end of the pit lane. Let's see if he puts his wheels over this white line. Just 2 wheels. That's good. That's fine. Zollinger to the line. The benchmark will be a 1:39.010.
And it looked like he was going directly into the wall as a celebration for being our first runner to actually set a lap time during qualifying. Rambo crosses the line to begin his tilt. Oh, straight into the wall, and he's continuing on. So it must have looked worse than it was. That camera angle right on the wall made it look very dramatic, but he's continuing on his lap, and the car looks to be still handling okay.
So down to turn 2. Sorry, he's gone past turn 2. This is the C section. Rambo carrying a bit of speed through there. Looks good. Looks clean. He's up by 1.3 seconds, so the timing agrees with him.
And yeah, pretty clean. Little bit safe maybe through the C section, but he's regardless negotiated it unscathed, which is more than well, at least 2 of our runners can say, having not even reached it. He comes in to try to stop.
And again, no one's really made that apex at try to stop just yet. It is so difficult. It's deceptively so, because it is quite an easy looking right angle corner, but it is of course downhill, and that's very tricky. He's carrying way too much speed there. Way too much speed into I don't bloody care, and I don't think he bloody cared at all, and he's completely missed his braking spot.
Nope, he's spin your car around over there like you just don't care, and he's lost a tremendous amount of time. He was up by 1.6 seconds before he hit I don't bloody care. So he's going to be not particularly happy with that effort, I imagine. He might still set a lap time, which would put him above Tyrrell and Roadie. He's continuing on.
Yeah. Which is important. As you said, it will put him ahead of those 2 guys. So it's a 1:49.2.
10.2 seconds behind Zollinger, but importantly ahead of Roadie and Tyrrell, who didn't set lap times at all. And
attention now to Nether Elmian.
It's been pretty decent so far this season, Nether. He's when he in races at least he's been sort of finding himself in probably higher positions than he would expect to be in, and then he's done quite well to defend those positions. So hoping for a decent qualifying and race for him tonight.
Into the C section. Now
seems a little bit more aggressive through the corners than Rambo was, as he gets up on the curbs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder there's probably 2 different schools of thought as to what the best way over the C section is. Is it to just gently make your way through, or is it to bump over those curbs? Whatever way you do it, it doesn't look graceful in these cars.
No, it's the changes in elevation don't help. It's a very awkward looking series of corners. As Nether probably comes the closest we've seen to doing try to stop well. He just missed the apex, but nice clean line.
1.8 seconds up as he goes into I don't bloody care. And does he bloody care? Oh, he bloody cares. That's pretty good. He just caught a little bit of curb on the inside, and that's fine. Into Wi-Fi password now. He's hanging the tail out just on the limit of adhesion. That was really, really well done. Now he's on the anchors for Adelaide. Turns it in. Just one more corner. This is a brilliant lap here from Nether Elmian, going all the way to the edge of the racetrack on the pit entry. And across the line, it will be a 1:36.2.
So that is a solid 2.7 seconds ahead of second place man Zarlingier. So very, very well done to Nether Elmian. Sam Smith now in his incredible Gravedigger liveried Opala. Comes through turn 1, Yeehaw corner, leaves a nice trail of rubber in his wake.
Yeah, I think this track is made for him, isn't it? Although having said that, when we went on board with him in the practice session, he made a complete mess of the C-section, so we'll see whether he does the same on this particular occasion.
So he's negotiated the first 2 parts of it well, so that's something.
And he's up by 0.9 of a second.
He is, and he looks pretty tidy. A little bit of tail on the exit there, but apart from that, pretty tidy the entire way through the C-section and on down the long straight towards try to stop.
Down the hill, picking up speed all the way onto the anchors. Haven't seen a puff of smoke, so he's taken quite a narrow entry in to try to stop, but it's worked out quite well for him, so that may well be the go.
Yeah, might be. It was a pretty decent exit. He's still up by 9/10 of a second coming down into I Don't Bloody Care, and he's done that quite well. Again, leaving that right rear tyre, leaving a lot of rubber on the road as he gives you a minor heart attack.
Yeah, that was special. Through Wi-Fi password into Adelaide. Oh, he goes a little bit wide. No, he spun it. He's ruined it right at the death. Adelaide was wanting for Sam Smith. That was absolutely a provisional pole lap, and he still can't get it facing the right way. He's completely lost. Someone give this man a map. He didn't get the Wi-Fi password he wanted because his Google Maps is all over the place. Done a J-turn, and he's reversing across the line. This is an absolute mess because he just wanted to be a bit of a showman. And if he hadn't done that, he would have been ahead of Rambo. Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
Good thing Scott Murrell has given himself a little bit of a gap, thankfully. He doesn't have to concern himself with Sam Smith's theatrics here. Oh, no!
Although
and he's
Scott
gone
Murrell's
deep
gone
on
off at Adelaide as well.
But at least that's his outlap. Gee, there's quite an incline on that gravel trap there, isn't there, for Scott Murrell? What do you make of that one, Madbird? Sam Smith?
Yeah, that was uncharacteristically messy from Sam Smith, and I've noticed he had a few issues getting it turned around once he had spun it. And I've noticed that a few of the other runners have also had issues when they've got it turned around. They loop it again when they're trying to flip it back around. So I think the tyres well and truly go off when you spin the car, and then it's like skating on ice trying to turn it back around again.
Scott Murrell.
That's aggressive.
Yeah, he's taken a lot of speed into the C-section. This looks like a rallycross lap from Scott Murrell, and maybe that is the way to attack that corner, because look at him, 7/10 up.
Yeah, that was some rally special stage, or super special stage even, those tarmac ones they do in city centres and such. Just sliding through every single corner. That's some Brenton Foley stuff.
A huge lock-up over the crest. Does he get it stopped for try to stop? He does. That's actually pretty well done. I reckon he carried a fair bit of speed there. Maybe drifted a little bit wide onto the grass on the exit, but he's still up by 0.8 of a second, so he found time through there.
Yeah, he's done very well. It looked like he carried a lot of speed into try to stop, even if he did run a little bit wide on the exit. And same with I Don't Bloody Care, and coming through Wi-Fi password, he seems a little bit of a swapper in the middle of Wi-Fi password, but he's managed to hold on to it. Down into the Adelaide hairpin where we saw Sam Smith lose on his outlap. His qualifying lap. Very deep, Scott Murrell into the pit entry.
No health and safety on that wall at the end of the pit lane. It comes up there. He's a 1:35.9. That is 0.3 of a second to the good for Scott Murrell.
Yep, very, very well done to Scott Murrell, who's had some very limited practice on this track. He's only been in the server for about 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes maybe.
Yeah, he's beaten 6 other guys. Because there's
well
4 who've set laps and 2 who haven't.
Goofball Antics now in the all-black kit-inspired car, who's been he's he's brought a level of charisma to the podium interviews that we've not experienced in quite some time. Stez.
He's hit his straps. He's hit his straps. Confidence, but in an entertaining way.
He has, very much so, and a little bit of awkerism to it as well.
Measured approach to the C section for goofball antics. A little bit different to what we saw from Scott Murrell. The first sector was a little bit down. What is up, my man?
Oh no! As goofball antic goes around and try to stop at all places.
Try to recover it.
Try to recover it.
That's not gone at all well for goofball antics.
The thing I was laughing at, sorry, was that you said that he took a measured approach to the C section, and I was thinking of that as goofball antics goes 6.3 seconds down through the second sector. I was thinking of that old craftsman's adage of measure twice, cut once. So perhaps taking a measured approach through the C section is probably the best strategy.
Well, it's better than hanging the rear out like Scott Murrell did. Oh, that was very close to the pit entry wall for goofball antics.
It was. He managed to keep it out of it, and only 6.6 seconds down.
Ahead of Rambo
at the end of his lap.
Ahead of Sam Smith.
As the man who made this track, what's his name? Roadhog. Begins
very
his hot
indeed.
lap. So he in theory should have the home field advantage, having built this track from the ground up.
But he often says whenever we run one of his tracks that he hasn't actually raced them for 10 years or so. He was quite prolific
he made
in
them
his
all
youth.
made them all for R Factor back in the early 2000s.
That's right. This must be the fourth track we've run of Roadhogs, I think. We've had Halls Gap, Place City Circuit. I can't remember the name of the one. Hollowham, that's right. And then, of course, Casbah Milne. The best of all of them. 2/10 up through the first sector, so it is looking good so far for the man who built this track.
He's showing his experience as he comes down the long straight, cops a little bit of air, as they all have coming down the straight. We need to name this straight, I feel like.
Just call it the back straight.
As the back straight, but then what's this one?
The second back straight.
Copy that. As he's still up, but it's cut down to 0.129 seconds.
Now, I was interested, sorry man, but to see what line he took through Try to Stop, because I was wondering whether there was a little bit of camber that fell away from the middle of the corner, because we saw Sam Smith attack it from the middle of the corner, and he did quite well up to that point. But Roadhog didn't do that, so if anyone was to know which way the camber went on the racetrack, it would be Roadhog.
We do know Roadhog is a fan of very oddly cambered corners. At Halls Gap Raceway, there was that as he goes fastest by almost 0.5 of a second, and Resist begins his hot lap. At Halls Gap Raceway that we did in the Porsche Boxer Cup, there was that very, very long left-hander that about halfway through, I think, the camber suddenly switched.
Yeah.
To the outside of the track. So if you were in the middle of the track or on the right hand side of the track, you just got forced completely off the circuit,
and
which caught a lot of people out.
If you were inside, you could do it flat. It was such a costly thing to be in the wrong part of the track for that corner.
It was a bloody entertaining track, to say the least, as Resist goes 0.73 up through the first sector.
Well, copped a little bit of air on the last part of the C section. We'll see if that costs him down the back straight.
Generally, you don't want air to get in when you're doing a C section.
Well, exactly. You know, he doesn't want airs. He's got Nikes, Adidas. Bug it up my own thing. Very, very over the curbs on the apex of Try to Stop there. But he's up by 0.5 of a second. That's a really, really good time for Resist so far.
Yeah, I think that might even be the way to do that corner. We keep talking about Try to Stop, but it's a very important corner, being at the end of one long straight and the beginning of another quite long straight. But just sort of cutting that curb like he did, jumping across the apex, seems to be a pretty decent way to take it. As
Blocks the inside
a little
front.
bit of through Adelaide hairpin. and then coming down towards the start-finish line. Looks like he's going to go fastest, and he does by almost 0.8 of a second.
Very good. Now this will be a showman's lap. Brenton Foley from PBF Race Engineering, the current championship leader, and has been setting a blistering pace. Oh, he's hit the wall. He's hit the wall. Is he all right? Looks like he's continued on, but there will be a mark on the outside of that car.
There will be, and just behind him is the man who's probably most hoping, and also not hoping that Brenton Foley buggers up and has to start from the back of the grid as he gets it all nearly.
It's a scando. He's done a scando.
He's done the most terrifying scando I've ever seen as he nearly put it on its roof.
He's up by 14 thousandths of a second, so somehow he's got away with that one. I think Xeris might be a little bit tidier through there. You say he'll be hoping for Foley to come unstuck, but he's absolutely been loving the battle. He's loving that someone's taking the fight to him.
Yeah, he's going to be. He'd sort of be hoping that he could get the championship back, but he's, as you say, he's also relishing having someone to battle, as Brenton Foley is now exactly 14 thousandths down.
That's a
on resist lap time.
28 thousandths turnaround.
Oh my goodness.
To the worst for Brenton Foley. Let's see if he can find another 14 thousandths in this particular sector to bring it back to an even zero and match the time set by resist.
Nice wide sort of drift line almost through Wi-Fi password as he comes through the Adelaide hairpin, lays down some rubber on the exit, comes down to cross the line. It's going to be close, and he goes second fastest.
Yeah, if you lay down the rubber, then there will be a C-section approximately 9 months later. And Xeris again brushes the wall.
Yeah, looked like it didn't look like it cost him much. Much like Brenton Foley, he's continued on, and it doesn't seem to have affected him overly much. We'll get an idea as he comes down into the C-section what sort of pace he's on, and goes through the little bit awkward through the first couple of, but he's up by 0.9 of a second.
Wow.
Which that just Brenton Foley with that sort of messy run through the first couple of corners in the C-section probably threw quite a lot of time away that Xeris has gobbled up.
It's looking very like being a sizer front row at the moment with Xeris and his brother Resist at the moment. Xeris up by, as you said, 0.9 of a second. Can he get it stopped in to try to stop with style?
Beautifully done.
That was beautifully done.
And he gives himself another 0.2 of a second advantage. 1.1 seconds now to the better is Xeris as he comes down into I don't bloody care.
This is a response. This is a response from Xeris. Here comes the Wi-Fi password. But Xeris has absolutely answered the critics. They said that maybe Foley was getting the better of him. Maybe the pressure was getting to him. Well, this pole lap is something else from Xeris.
As it goes a little bit wide on the exit of the hairpin, but that seems to just be the line to try to straight line that last section. Oh, goodness me. As he goes through across the start-finish line, 1 second up. I'm fine. I just burped.
There you go. Well, your pole sitter is Xeris, a 1:33.598 ahead of Resist, who will occupy the front row alongside him. Brenton Foley starts third, and the man who built this racetrack starts fourth.
Yeah, interesting top four. Those first two rows of the grid are going to be very interesting. I could definitely see Brenton Foley getting a good start and maybe having a cheeky look into Yeehaw, which is not going to end well for anyone. But regardless, I could easily see him attempting it.
Yeah, well, it will take a man with guts, that's for sure.
That is for damn sure as we hop over and into a warm-up session.
That's right, warm-up session, 10 minutes they get, and they'll have a bit of a chance to get out all of their sillies. Some practice starts, maybe some pit entries. Of course, they don't have the pit lane limiter in these cars, so they have to manually get down to speed.
Yep, and maintain that speed through the pit lane, which sounds pretty simple, but it's more difficult than you'd expect when you're trying to concentrate on your pit menu, looking to see where your rival is on track, trying to, figure out where you can start accelerating again. It's very easy to slip over that speed limit, and there is a bit of leeway built in, but it doesn't take much to trip a penalty.
And I don't think we've had one of those penalties actually cost someone the win yet, but the day is surely on its way. Maybe it's tonight.
Could be tonight. It was a similar thing in the DRMs where there was a pit speed limit that and no pit limiter on the cars. So I don't think it cost anyone a win back then as well, as we see a lot of people going through the C section and Sam Smith looping it. Was that Sam Smith?
That was Sam Smith's. A bit of a, it's quite a frequent visitor to the C section. Loops it around there. We saw it in practice. It was actually the Adelaide hairpin where we saw him loop it in the qualifying session, though.
Yeah, very uncharacteristic error from Sam Smith.
Yes. Well, we wish better things for Sam Smith. Championship hasn't been going too badly for him. He's currently sat in 6th place, but of course keeping in mind that he missed the second round in Surfers Paradise, so 4 starts from a possible 6, and he's got 166 points from that. This is the practice start we're watching now, and that is the top 3 as they will start. Quite a staggered grid there. We do see some tracks where the front row is a lot further ahead of the second row. Now it's a bit more even between first and second and third with this racetrack.
Yeah, it's quite often they're side by side almost, with no advantage to starting on one side of the grid to the other, apart from just the racing line. So it's quite nice to see a good staggered grid after the last couple, where we've had pretty equal rows, I'd say.
Yeah, well, Surfers Paradise, that's the V8 supercar circuit, and they don't have a stagger at all on their grid. As you said, they just put the pole position on the inside line. But sometimes that is a bit of a disadvantage if the racing line is on the outside.
Roadhog and they did. Roadhog and Scott Murrell actually went side by side through Yeehaw, which we predicted was going to be an absolute an airplane crash if it happened, but they managed to do it quite cleanly, although Roadhog has now spun it out.
Yep, that was through turn 2. That was a bit of a yeehaw moment. I'm expecting at least someone to come a cropper there. They'll definitely sort themselves out by the time they get through here.
And Brenton Foley did have a good start on that particular practice start, but not quite enough to get ahead of Resist. But you can see they're probably not going completely hammer and tongs, but this is usually a pretty good indication of the first lap pace that they will have. And Xeris is kind of streaking away as Resist and Brenton Foley squabble over that second place.
Resist could be a crucial member in this fight and could help his brother a little bit. If Foley has the same sort of pace that he's shown in the last 2 rounds, he's just been gradually chipping away until Xeris makes a mistake. But if Foley takes a few laps or even the entire race to get past Resist, then that could allow Xeris to get a bit of a lead, as we're seeing here.
And of course, the grid for the second race is determined by the results of the first race. So if Brenton Foley manages to get himself up into second, then he will start from there for the second race. That'll give him a much better opportunity in the second race to attack Xeris. But obviously, he's going to want to try to maximise his points, get a win in both races would be the ideal for the third round running for Brenton Foley.
We're going to jump on board Foley here for the second practice start in this warm-up session. Someone's flashing their lights. I can't quite tell just who that is. But let's see how he compares to Resist and Xeris. Revs are rising. Oh, look at that. I think Resist just got the jump, but then Foley is gaining a little bit through here, but couldn't get up alongside and lost a little bit on the exit as Resist actually tails his brother a little bit more.
Yeah, I reckon if you don't have an incredible run into Yeehaw, then it's almost not worth having a peak, because you just see how much pace Brenton Foley had to scrub away by sort of dabbing the brakes and slipping in behind resist at the last minute. I reckon just going line astern will be better.
That entry curve, I saw a lot of cars bumping over that on the inside and actually getting a fair bit of air as they entered C-section.
Yeah, it's a bumpy old section. is that area, and big lock up from Brenton Foley,
like
almost turned into a dive.
It nearly did, and I get the feeling that we'll see quite a few accidental moves, if you like, into try to stop, because where you lock up and you're trying just to make the corner, the car on the inside might see you coming and just give you the space to avoid you crashing into them.
Yeah, it happens pretty often in our races, I think. People sort of overestimate their abilities sometimes. As Brenton Foley has a practice pit in, which is a very good idea.
Smart.
Smart. It's an odd pit entry because it's basically an extension of the last corner.
I think it's Zarlinger got involved in some sort of skirmish at the pit entry. See if we can catch a replay of what happened there. Did he do it all by himself, or did he get some help? I think, he just got two wheels on the grass, and poor old Rambo on the inside was completely innocent.
Destroyed.
Destroyed, it is right. Sam Smith, I don't know if he meant to duck into the pits, but nonetheless, that was the side he was on. And so he was going into the pits regardless, because there's Zarlinger. There was a Zarlinger on the inside.
It was almost like the cones delineating a detour. Didn't really have the choice of continuing on the track as designed. Zarlinger was blocking that path for him. We've got under 3 minutes to run in this warm-up session, and we'll be jumping over into race number 1.
There's Roadhog. Sorry, not Roadhog, Roadie. Dealing with one of the issues that we see with the C-section. So this is the entry to the C-section. Does he take a lot of curb? I think he just carries a lot of speed, and as the car sort of grips up again, it sort of goes light here, and then the weight goes down, and his front wheels are basically pointing the wrong direction at that point, and he's going straight to the scene of the accident.
It's a very classic roadie track in that sense, isn't it? That none of the corners are what you could really describe as straightforward. They all have something. The most straightforward one is probably the Adelaide hairpin, which is.
It resembles a corner enough that we've actually named it after the corner it makes us think of.
Whereas the rest of them are quite. Turn 2, I guess, is quite standard. But Yeehaw is an odd little sort of back and forth chicane. The C-section, don't even get me started. Try to stop is a very strange uphill hard braking zone into a blind crest right-hander. I don't bloody care. Similar, except downhill. Wi-Fi password is a very, very long, almost sort of 3 apex left-hander. So nothing simple. Nothing. You talk about Tilke tracks and how people say that you could make one, like an AI could generate one just by putting like puzzle pieces together. I don't think any of these. I don't think any of these corners look like they came out of a computer.
No. However, if you were to look at the track from a plan view from above, it doesn't actually look that out of the ordinary. It's only when you see the elevation changes in real life, or in game, that you notice these things, and now that the track looks unusual. But from an actual map of the circuit, it just looks perfectly normal.
Yeah, I remember when I first loaded into the game and I saw the track map, I was like, oh, okay, because I was expecting something insane. Like Hall's Gap had a bridge, it doubled over itself, Suzuka style. Play City Circuit had that incredibly long straight into a long right-hander. As we see Rambo spearing off coming out of the hairpin. He's managed to keep it out of the wall though, so very well done to him. What was Hollowham? Hollowham was another one that the track map didn't look particularly crazy, but when you're actually driving it, it's all sorts of weird camber and elevation changes. Oh my goodness, that looked like an accident.
It was. It was the two USSR cars, Zalinger and Resist. And Zalinger found a little bit of a shortcut there through Yeehaw, and there was his teammate slowly going about his business on the inside of the track on the grass there, and there was about to be an almighty coming together, rear and front were as one.
Rear and front were as one. We've just shown up. Someone's been DQ'd.
Oh,
Roadhog has been DQ'd
from his own racetrack.
From his own racetrack. Presumably that'll be fixed.
Yes, we can't actually tell what that was for because the session just reset, and so we don't have the ability to replay what just happened. But I imagine there will be a little bit of work for Xerus as the server host to do to undisqualify Roadhog from the event.
It looks as if quite a few of them have been DQ'd actually.
This might be something to do with pit boxes. I remember this being a problem in the Laguna Seca track that we raced, I want to say in the Caterham series, with cars getting DQ'd when they went into the race session.
That does sound familiar, actually.
Thankfully, we do have the person who built the track handy.
We've just got Netherelmian has just said in the chat, unable to go to track. So I think that is, I'm looking at the timing screen. We've got Brenton Foley, Roadhog, Scott Murrell, Netherelmian, Zarlingear, Goofball Antics, iRambo, and Tyrrell all showing up as DQ.
So there nonetheless will be a brief recess while we sort this issue out, of course. That is worrying news. Hopefully they can resolve the problem to get the race underway.
Xerus has assured us we know, so they'll be having a fiddle, I can only assume.
Nothing like a good fiddle.
And we can only hope that they're able to sort this out, because otherwise we've got 4 cars able to go to track, which are Xerus, Resist, Sam Smith, and Rhodey. And that is Rhodey, not Roadhog, the track designer.
Well, do you remember what they did to resolve the issue when we had this problem at Laguna Seca?
We used a completely different version of the track, which we don't have the option of doing. We don't have the option of doing tonight, I don't believe.
Can you turn rules off so that cars don't get DQ'd?
I'm not 100% sure. The server is just being cycled, so hopefully that will fix the issue. I think the issue with turning it, I think it's an issue of the DQ happens because of where the cars are spawned into the track, which is not something that you can change on the fly, I don't believe.
No, probably not without access to the original file the Roadhog had when he made the circuit, and then potentially that would mean that everyone would have to re-download the circuit.
Which wouldn't be ideal. So hopefully we've just hopped into another session and we can hopefully get this sorted out forthwith.
That's the best kind of width.
It is. It is indeed.
Well, it's probably now a pertinent time to have some of our random talk completely irrelevant to this race itself.
Absolutely. How have you been, Stairs?
Oh, good. Oh, I didn't mean about ourselves. I meant of like racing in general. But I have been well.
Oh.
Yes. How about yourself?
I apologise for taking an interest. I've been I've been all right.
How is that good lady of yours?
She's continues to be good.
That's good.
We've made an agreement. We're not going to touch each other until cooler weather arrives, because
waiting a while.
Skin on skin contact is not desirable at this moment.
All right. When you say cooler weather, do you mean when the April cooler weather arrives, or just
Yes.
next week?
No, we have once we get to sort of where it starts to turn warmer, we have a thing that we say to each other, which is, "I'll touch you again in winter." So
I didn't realize you struggled so much. I know you're not a fan of the warmer weather, but that sounds a little bit extreme to me.
I think I'm not a fan of the warmer weather, but I think I handle it better than she does.
Yeah.
So, the compromise makes a relationship.
Yeah.
And in this case, the compromise is that we don't touch each other until the cooler weather. Obviously, it is somewhat exaggerated.
I remember a 45-degree day once where I had a wank under my duck down doona
Oh my god!
as a young lad, and that was a mistake.
I can only imagine. I was
don't know what a duck down doona was doing out of December anyway, but nonetheless, it allowed me to say a fair bit of alliteration in that sentence.
We hit a 25-degree day a week or so ago, and it's like, yep. I reckon it's about time for the summer quilt. And I was just talking to someone. I can imagine that having a wank in December under a duck down doona would it'd be a sort of similar situation to, I was talking to someone at work who was saying that their aircon in their car is no good, and how when you get into a car on a very hot day and it's just been sitting in the sun all day, the unique sensation of feeling your body begin to sweat, which I don't think I feel at any time. Like I'll suddenly realize, I'm sweating, but I haven't really been consciously aware of it. Whereas when I get into my car after it's been sitting out in the sun in a 40-degree day, I feel like I'm consciously aware of my pores opening and fluid beginning to leak out.
Interesting.
And I can only imagine that was much what it was like to have a tug under a winter blanket.
Well, there was an influx of sweat.
Other fluids,
but one of my housemates who does struggle a little bit with the warmer weather, she was telling me that she doesn't think she sweats enough, and that was one of the reasons she thinks why she doesn't deal with the warmer weather terribly well. And so I was wondering whether it's a thing that other people have, but it sounds like that isn't, if you can feel your pores opening up in order to release sweat.
That's nature's way of trying to cool your body, isn't it? But
if it doesn't work, then naturally you will overheat fairly quickly, I would have thought.
Well, obviously, so there could be some merit to what she's suggesting. But
it's not the only type.
We've just gone into another race session, by the way, and the exact same thing has unfortunately happened to the same drivers as well. So,
oh dear.
So we will be awaiting to see if this is able to be fixed, or we may end up not having a race, unfortunately.
So tonight we've got a broadcast and we might not have a race. Next week we will have a race, and maybe this is the time to mention that we won't have a broadcast because of real life commitments getting in the way. We'll of course keep you abreast of what happens next week, in the week afterwards when we go back to normal duties. Absolutely, and
it's sort of it is one of the pitfalls of sim racing is you don't get track issues like the concrete breaking or whatever, but you do occasionally get game issues of it just throws its hands in the air and says, no, I don't want to play tonight, and it packs itself in. We're being told they are trying to run the server with no flags or penalties to see if that fixes it, but no promises on it working or not. So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Sam Smith has left us, unfortunately. He's got an early start tomorrow. So down to 11 runners now.
That's a shame. Sam Smith manages a pet food company and is quite a busy man with the work that he does. I have listened.
Does he actually? I've never actually bothered to to find out what he does for work. I've always just assumed he works.
Well, I've had the great pleasure of staying with Sam earlier in the year when we went to the Phillip Island Classic, and during our journey from Melbourne to Phillip Island, I learned a bit more about him and talked about our work, and I knew that he worked at a pet food company, but I just thought he was sort of one of the grunt workers. Turns out I think he's part owner in the business and does a fair bit of managerial type stuff, and has been kept quite busy during the year as his industry was considered essential. I guess everyone's got pets, so you can't just not feed your pets.
Guess so.
And so, yes, it sounds quite interesting, actually. But sort of a world that's completely alien to me, the world of managing a pet food factory.
It looks like we will have a race, so that's good. That fix did work, so they're just resetting the grid now. That's possibly... Managerial stuff is probably the last thing I would expect Sam Smith to do, which is nothing. He's a lovely man, but he doesn't seem like the managerial type.
He must keep his work and private, I guess personal life fairly separate, so that his manager side doesn't come out when he's with us. He's just happy to have a bit of fun. Sounds like an absolute nightmare there, though. From what I heard, the business was outgrowing the factory they were in, and they were planning to expand, and that was in March. He was telling me that just before the lockdown began.
Yep, so quite a while ago. Can you believe we're in December, Stairs?
Well, not quite. We're in November. That's why I can't believe it.
November is what is... I even looked at my calendar as I said the words.
Can you believe it? No, I can't believe it at all, because it's not true.
My calendar clearly says November, and yet my mouth said December. So, my goodness. Well,
you do make a good point.
Me.
The last few months have absolutely flown by. As much as the first part of the year took about 4 years, the last 3 months I think have taken about 3 weeks.
It does seem that way.
It does.
Looks like we are going over into the race session now, so we will be on our way in just a few moments.
Hallelujah.
So no flag rules or penalties. So the only things that will affect are there will be no track cut penalties. So basically an honour system has been put in place.
Hopefully they are not going to take advantage of that honour system.
And same thing for the pit lane speed. So again, I guess we can sort of keep an eye out, because it'll be pretty obvious if someone's cruising through there at 200 kilometres an hour.
If anyone's taking the piss.
But I doubt anyone would do that intentionally.
Just waiting for everyone to grid up. There's still 3 cars sat in the pit lane.
That is by design, by their own design, by the looks of it. There's no DQs showing up on my screen, so... and indeed they have all jumped in except for Goofball Antics, who's leaving it until the very last moment, and there he is.
So unfortunate the loss of Sam Smith, but we still have 11 other runners, starting with Xeris, who took pole position in dominant fashion from his brother Resist in the USSR car, who will start alongside him. I believe that's his best qualifying session of this season. Brendan Foley will start behind those two in 3rd place. He's the current championship leader, and will be looking to protect that championship lead. What can he do off the start? Behind him is Roadhog, the designer of this racetrack, and suitably up in 4th place, had a quite strong qualifying session. Ahead of Scott Murrell, who got up to speed impressively well, considering how little time he had to acquaint himself with a brand new circuit, coming home from work just minutes before the qualifying session. Netherelmian, who's traditionally not been a huge fan of Roadhog circuits, done pretty well qualifying in 6th for Outworld Racing Team, ahead of Zarlinger. A good showing from Zarlinger as well in 7th place. Behind him is Goofball Antics, who I believe, I'm trying to remember now, it's such a long time ago, but I think he made a bit of a mistake in his qualifying session. We definitely know Rambo did. He made a big spin. Tyrrell had a bit of a problem, and Rhodey had a bit of a problem. And that is that is all of our runners.
I think Tyrrell and Rhodey did not even get to the C section. They were out before turn 2. And I reckon Goofball came unstuck at the...
Try to stop.
Try to stop,
That's
yeah.
right, I'm remembering it now. He spun on the exit, I believe.
That's correct.
There's a lot of things to remember, but yes.
It's a lot of things to remember.
Predictions, Madbird, for this race?
Resist for the win.
First time?
Let's lock that in.
You'll owe him an apology now, having said that.
He doesn't believe in curses, so
he did well in Hollowham, so he's actually a bit of a Roadhog track specialist himself.
Yeah, and of course he had a fantastic battle with the man just ahead of him on track, and his brother Xerus at Play City Circuit in the Caterhams, going side by side through the tunnel. So hopefully gets a decent start and can take the fight to him coming into Yeehaw.
Just lining up now.
Just saying these corner names.
Breton Foley and Resist have left themselves a fair bit of margin ahead of their grid box. Xerus is a lot closer forward in his box, but we're now going to get a start. We're just waiting. Revs are rising. The lights are on. And the lights are off here in Casbah Milne. Off they go. A good start from the top 3. They're all pretty much 2x2. A little bit of action further back. But through the first corner, it's Xerus from Resist. And then behind him, Breton Foley side by side there for Scott Murrell and Roadhog. And it's going to be Roadhog on the inside of turn 2.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened in one of our practice starts we saw, as Brenton Foley goes all over the curb at turn 2. And a little bit late with his start was Brenton Foley. Xerus and Resist both pretty much got it on the dime, but Brenton Foley was a split second later with his acceleration, which gave him no chance to get up alongside into the first corner. They're all nice and clean through the C section so far by the looks of it. Looking down, yep, they've all made it down through to Rhodey in last place. And look at the gap that's already opened up at the front, 1.1 seconds.
This is what we feared might happen. Very good news for Xerus, of course, but now it is going to be a story of whether Brenton Foley can clear Resist quickly enough to make a challenge for the lead.
He's looking like he's trying to have a look down the inside at I Don't Bloody Care, but not managing to do so. And he's had to slot in behind. I reckon Brenton Foley's going to carry a lot more pace through this long left-hander.
Scott Murrell just had an almighty moment, I think it was at I Don't Bloody Care, and he flicked his headlights on and off. It looked like just I can just imagine the sheer terror going on with the steering wheel, and it looks like he flicked the wheels on and off. We'll see if we can get a replay of it a little later on.
It's almost like accidentally flicking the wipers on.
There it is.
He's done quite well to pull it up. Down into 7th now, Scott Murrell.
Yeah, lost that place. Yeah, lost that place to Nether and another place to Zarlinger by the looks of it. So Roadhog's a bit off the hook, who was being challenged by Scott Murrell early doors in the first lap.
Brenton Foley just in that compression zone, coming sideways in his car, leaving rubber on the track. So he's pushing about as hard as he can through the C section to get onto the back of Resist. There's not too much of a toe in these cars. The slipstream isn't too effective, but it does help just that little bit. But I don't think Brenton Foley's close enough to have a go into try to stop.
No,
and indeed he isn't.
Has just got back through on Zarlinger, who's bowled away down at the C section, and Scott Murrell was eager to take that spot right back. Goofball antics on the tail of them as well, as we rejoin this fight between Resist and Brenton Foley into I Don't Care. And Xerus with a 2-second lead. And look at that. Resist has gone wide, and Foley goes straight through into second place.
I reckon that was just Brenton Foley committed to the inside, which probably made Resist overthink it a bit. He had so much track position, and he was oodles ahead of Brenton Foley. There's no way Brenton Foley was getting down the inside, but he just overthought it a bit and went deep, I think. So Brenton Foley can now set off after Xerus, sorry.
Yeah, I thought the gap was coming down fairly quickly, but I think it's just the natural fluctuations as they go through the lap. But it was out to 2.5 seconds, and then it was down to 1.5 seconds. As Phil goes,
Resist goes wide again at turn 2.
Yeah, he's got to watch out because Roadhog's not too far behind him as well. The top 4 have all gapped fifth place man Nether by 5 seconds. And now Scott Murrell is on the back of Nether as well. So having got past Zarlinger, Goofball Antics is eager to make up some spots after a relatively poor qualifying from his standards.
I imagine Roadhog would be absolutely stoked to get a podium on his own track. I don't think he's done that before. So he's definitely looking to keep himself in touch with Resist, as we see Zarlinger having to slot in behind Goofball Antics, who's made the position through the C section.
So they're just stretching out a little bit at this stage of the race. Of course, they will have to make a pit stop. Bit of a lock up there from Zarlinger. Goofball Antics bowls another wide down there at try to stop. And that's going to allow Zarlinger to get a run on him, actually, as they go down into I Don't Care. I think he's got the job done if he can just outbrake Goofball Antics. Goofball Antics very, very confident, however. And I think Zarlinger probably could have braked a little bit later, but just didn't quite have the confidence to.
Yeah, it looked like he backed out of it a little bit, didn't he? As Zero sets the fastest lap, 1:33.4. And at the front, I'm trying to see what the gap is, about 2.2 seconds is the gap now between first and second place.
Now, Scott Murrell has caught up to the back of Nether. That's the battle for 5th place. There's battles up and down this field. We've seen a bit of a topsy-turvy qualifying session, which often results in this first part of the first race being a little bit of a chance to shake it all out and get everyone in the right order. And then, of course, we have the pit stops, which completely does that all over again. So who is going to prevail in this battle?
Oh, Scott Murrell got beached on the curb there a little bit coming through the C section, and he's turned it around. He's got it bounced off one of the curbs, and that's going to leave the door open for Goofball Antics. Oh, Scott rejoins the track at the apex, basically, of the end of the C section, effectively blocking Goofball Antics from taking that position from him. It looked pretty fair, if I'm honest, but I'm not sure Goofball Antics will be particularly happy about it, as we just see a replay.
Yeah, that was Goofball Antics who just got past Zarlinger a lap ago. No, I think he was far enough ahead, Scott Murrell, that Goofball Antics probably wasn't going to get that spot anyway. He'll try to get it now, of course. He's on the recovery trail. Scott Murrell's been a bit up and down this race.
He has, yeah. Started in 5th and went down to 7th, back up to 6th as Brenton Foley sets the fastest lap. So clearly is setting off after Xeris. Gap is now under 2 seconds.
Yeah, he took about 0.3 of a second out of Xeris on the previous lap, so that's him in the shot up ahead. I reckon, once again, Foley is going to come good in the back end of this race. This was what they talked about in their post-race interviews last week. Although Xeris seems to be pretty confident in qualifying, Foley has more practice driving on effed tyres than Xeris does. Xeris is pretty good on old tyres, but I think Foley is the way he drives, he often has to deal with very, very worn-out tyres towards the back end of a race anyway, so he's comfortable with it.
He's probably the only one of our drivers that has a specific driving style that we can point to like that. I don't think any of the other ARW drivers really have a driving style where you can go, oh yeah, you know, this guy really screws his tyres, or this guy really looks after his tyres. They're all pretty even. Brenton Foley's the outlier who drives like an absolute maniac, and as they said, he's used to driving on no rubber because he leaves so much of it on the track, even when he's in normal cars.
Yeah, it's very much, I think, been to his detriment in a lot of the other series that we've run. I think with the DRMs, the tyres just overheat, and they weren't able to be brought back into an operating window, and Xeris was able to finesse his car a little bit better. But with these cars, it just seems to work, whether you know, they don't fall off a cliff too much. That they get to a certain point of wear and then they stay there. I couldn't tell you exactly how they feel, because I haven't driven these cars, but that is my guess, is that they sort of wear to a point where he's just comfortable at that level, and a little bit more so than Xeris.
Their line, these two Brenton Foley and Xeris's line through the first corner of the C section is terrifying, because they get their two lefts up on the curb and are briefly on two wheels, and it always looks like it's going to end in a crash, but so far it hasn't, for these two at least. And Brenton Foley is getting markedly closer, 1.6 seconds now the gap.
Yeah, it took another 10th out of him in the first sector of this lap. We've just seen the sector times come through for the second sector, and it's a 10th and a half through there, so he's chipping away ever so slowly.
Just having an incredibly messy C section, just ahead of Goofball Antics.
Yeah, Goof's fallen back tonight somehow, so we
must have had another accident somewhere.
Yeah, we'll just have to catch that. It looks like it happened more than a lap ago. We'll stick with this battle for the lead because it's hotting up, but we'll see if we can... Oh, it looks like Goofball Antics went into the pits. He's taken his pit stop, so that's a bit early. 10 minutes in.
Last lap, was 9/10 to the better for Brenton Foley over Xeris.
Wow. And we knew that 3.5 of those tenths were in the first two sectors, so the final sector, Foley is taking a lot. I'm wondering if that's through Wi-Fi password, because that is definitely a corner that we've seen Foley sideways through.
Yeah, he seems to be very comfortable with it. We might put it up on our Facebook page. He did a track guide for this circuit. In the drift cars.
I did not see that.
As you might expect for Brenton Foley. I believe he also, one of his little projects that he did was he put the drift tires and physics on the DRMs, and he drifted through. He drifted across the top of the mountain at Bathurst in his Capri. So he's definitely adept at drifting.
Let's watch him again through Wi-Fi password, because this seems to be where he has the advantage over Xeris. Not exactly.
Yeah, it looks like he's just able to get it tucked up to that inside curb a lot easier, and he's not laying down any... Oh, Roadhog has looped it coming out of I Don't Bloody Care, which has given Resist a huge let-off. The gap between them is now about 3.5 seconds, whereas it was under a second just before. So that's a shame for Roadhog.
That's a shame.
Well, as this battle between 8th, 9th and 10th, Irambo, Goofball Antics and Tyrrell is hotting up. They nearly came to blows as they went through Try to Stop, and they're managing to continue on. Rhodey is now taking his pit stop.
Yeah, so Goofball Antics is sort of the meat in the sandwich, out of sync with these, because he has taken his pit stop and the others haven't, so he'll be kind of hoping that they either speed up or just get out of his way so that he can carry about his merry way. But it doesn't look like that's happening right now. All three of them continue on.
Gap at the front under a second now, as Brenton Foley just keeps chipping away. He's just so much cleaner through Try to Stop, compared to Xeris, who got a bit of a lock up and slid through the corner a bit more. Brenton Foley actually a lot tidier through the apex.
Oh. Some side-by-side action further back there with Rambo and Goofball Antics. Rambo I saw take a lot of curb, and Goofball Antics has spun around. Was there a little bit of side-to-side contact there into the C section, and that's all ended in tears for Goofball Antics, who's now last but one with Rhodey a lap down.
Yeah, he's probably going to be pretty annoyed with himself about that one. It was just a bit of a messy accident for all involved, and it wasn't his battle. He was completely out of sequence with those two. So,
well, it was a bit strange because we saw this from Rambo, who was taking a few liberties with the track on the inside. Now that we're running the honour system with this track cut situation in order to get the race running. And then after that, it looked to me like Rambo was letting Goofball through after making the track cut, saying, hey, I made a mistake, I did that track cut, here's the spot. But then he fought back around the outside of turn 2, and we saw what happened from then on with Goofball Antics in the fence.
Yeah, I'm not sure why Rambo was fighting it so hard. I must be honest. It looked like he, almost cut Goofball Antics off coming through the first section of the C section. So we might very well see that get looked at. There was a review from last round. Brenton Foley and Netherelmian coming down the back straight, but Brenton Foley was just awarded a warning.
Scott Murrell just looped it down at where was that? That was at I Don't Care. Sorry, that wasn't I Don't Care. That was the C section. So that's dropped a fair bit of time for him. Good evening to Lewis Wedding. Lewis89 in the chat says go Hans. And, well, Lewis, you've joined us at an inauspicious time. Well, an auspicious time, I would say. This is the running... Oh! Huge wide action there from Xeris. And he's over the inside curb of turn 1 there. I think it's going to be play on with these. There's no way to police this. But this is the new racetrack designed by Roadhog, Casbah Milne. This is the turn 2 that they're heading into now.
No, this is the C section.
Ah, yes, I was one corner behind. And Xeris is coming under a fair bit of pressure from Brenton Foley, who's got a lot of speed on these older tyres. The resist drop away now to 18 seconds, and Roadhog a further 20 seconds behind him.
Yeah, Brenton's just been chipping away at this gap.
And he's come out
turn
just
1 will be called
Scott
the death fence.
it is a bit the death fence. We're just seeing Scott Murrell after the pit stop. Well, after his spin, he's remained ahead of Roadhog, who's just made his pit stop. So I think Roadhog will be hoping that Scott Murrell pits fairly shortly.
Brenton Foley 0.2 of a second up through the second sector. They were even Steven through the first sector. And when are these two going to pit? We've seen some interesting strategies from Brenton Foley and Xeris in their battles, choosing to take tyres, not take tyres. Xeris is looking like he's committing to the pits, so Brenton Foley's going to continue on. I reckon that's good for Brenton Foley, because I think he has a bit more pace than Xeris and was probably getting held up a tiny bit. So if he can do a lap, a nice hot lap, set a fastest lap time maybe by himself out there, he might very well get the overcut.
Tyrrell was DNF somewhere, and also Rambo's had a spin at turn 2.
That's a shame.
Here's Xeris coming out of the pits just ahead of Resist by the looks of it. So he's got himself an entire pit stop advantage on his brother, and that's quite good for him that he's managed to stay ahead because he doesn't have to deal with traffic on his outlap.
Yeah, so the gap between Brenton Foley and Xeris is now about 13 seconds. So call it about 14 seconds for Xeris' pit stop, because he was about a second ahead of Brenton Foley when he came in. Sorry, it's even more than that actually. It's just updating on my screen. About 18 seconds rather. Looks like the pit stop delta was.
So Brenton Foley's just coming down the back straight, the second back straight. This is into I Don't Care. There's two second back straight. Oh, there's two back straights. One of them's called the back straight, the other one's called the second back straight. This is the corner we've been calling Wi-Fi password. And down into the
it's long and confusing.
Because it's long and confusing. Or with lots of corners. No, that doesn't quite work. Foley in the pits.
Alright, so let's see how that goes for him. Xeris is just coming through Wi-Fi password as we speak. He's already gapped his brother's resist by about 1.6 seconds. Brenton Foley's still stationary. Brenton Foley's just started moving.
Yep. And Xeris is not in the picture just yet. There he is, just at the back of their shot. We've still got a long way. Now, this is interesting because they have to police themselves, basically, as far as the pit lane speed limit, since we've had to turn rules off. But there he goes. He's got the jump through the pit stops. Brenton Foley leads, but now Xeris is going to be up to pace with warmer tyres by the benefit of one lap. This is going to be very, very interesting. Xeris needs to strike while the iron is hot.
He does, yeah. He's going to have warmer tyres. And he's diving. That was always going to be an airplane crash if they made contact through there. But he's managed to pull it up just in time. And Brenton Foley placing that car in the exact middle of the track as much as humanly possible. And Xeris is all over the back of him with much warmer tyres. and quite a bit more confidence, it looks like, on his second lap, whereas Brenton Foley having to tiptoe a little on his outlap.
Down the back straight, in to try to stop. Bit of a lock up there from Brenton Foley. He's gone the grass. He might be going wide. Somehow he makes that corner work. He was all sorts of out of control, and in the end, Xeris goes a little bit wide and drops a few tenths of a second.
Yeah, so Brenton Foley ended up taking it quite cleanly, whereas Xeris was the one who had a messy run through, try to stop, and a messy run through I Don't Bloody Care as well. He got all up on the curb, did Xeris, and this has given Brenton Foley an immense let-off. The gap is now over a second between the two of them, and Brenton Foley's got to be breathing a sigh of relief in that helmet.
Well, that's the outlap complete for Brenton Foley, and his tyres should be up to temperature now, and that was probably the most dangerous part of this whole sequence for Brenton Foley. He's absolutely millimetre perfect through the first corner, through Yahoo. Yeehaw, I should say.
You
and
named
into
it.
turn 2, I did name it. I also named this corner, which is called turn 2. I didn't name the corner after that, which is called C-section.
That one came up before you entered Discord, I believe.
There you go.
Because we were saying that there's a C corner on pretty much all of Roadhog's tracks, and someone said, well, there's a C complex on this track, and someone else chimed in. I think it was Zarlingier, and said, there's a C section.
Yeah.
And it caught on. Like Shepard just saying, Brenton must have put implants in his Opala because that thing was wide back there. He had the elbows out, and there may have been some surgery done to make those elbows especially juicy. But regardless, they were legal. And the gap is now 3 seconds between Brenton Foley and Xeris. So after leading for the entire first stint, Xeris, a very messy attacking lap on Brenton Foley, has seen him fall well away as Zarlingier gets out of the way and is lapped.
Well, we wondered whether his first victory of the season, which came in Surface Paradise, was just because he knows that circuit very well. Surface Paradise, of course, is a V8 Supercars circuit, and he is a huge V8 Supercars fan as he brushes the wall through Yeehaw. But it wasn't a flash in the pan. We saw him get another win last week in Interlagos and really start to announce himself on this championship. And with this performance here, showing that it's not just a flash in the pan, it's a bit of a trend that he's able to get the better of Xeris sometimes on older tyres. Still the better part of 9 minutes left in this race, of course. But I say that Foley is very much a real threat for the championship this year. If not already considered that before this round, because he leads by 17 points.
He does, yeah, and it's he just doesn't seem to be. It seems pretty confident from Brenton Foley. He's not sort of overawed by it, which when you got Xeris in your rearview mirror every race can definitely get to you.
Xeris
but he's
is busy going off the track as well. He's just gone down deep at try to stop once more.
So I'm trying to think. Like Brenton Foley came out probably under a second ahead of Xeris in the end, so that you wouldn't think that'd be enough to say that he hasn't changed his tyres and Xeris has. And the way that Xeris is driving, you wouldn't want to say that he's on much fresher tyres than Brenton Foley, because he's, if anything, more ragged than Brenton Foley is, as you see him laying down a lot of rubber coming out of the Adelaide hairpin.
Well, Brenton Foley is no stranger to championship fights. He's got a huge collection of AMS Oz championships. He's won a few of the, I can't remember the name of the series, I think it's TCAC. They had quite a few series where he was often hobbled with weight penalties for success ballast, and still managed to win quite a few races and championships in spite of that.
Yeah, and he's obviously won several of the V8s, I believe, over there. Himself and Phil Boak, who make up PBF Race Engineering. A mighty duo.
So with 6 minutes remaining in this race, we'll take a bit of a stock take as we've
we've sort of settled into a bit of a rhythm now with 2/3 of the race under our belt. Bretton Foley is extending his lead over Xeris, now up to 4 seconds, with Xeris seemingly unable to have a response for the pace of Brenton Foley. Resist is on track for another podium. He's currently in 3rd place, and he has a decent advantage over Roadhog. Would be nice to see Roadhog get a podium. But of course, I wouldn't say that.
It'd be nice to see him get a penalty.
It'd be nice, but no one's getting a penalty in this race because they've turned the penalties off because of an issue on the start with cars getting DQ'd for being in the wrong garages. But of course, there is a bit of an honour system here. We're hoping that people don't take advantage of that. Netherelmian's having another strong result in 5th place. He's got a 20-second margin over the next car, Goofball Antics, who's been in the wars a little bit today. We've seen him spinning around, and not just in the race, but in qualifying as well. So he's had to make up positions off the start. He's done 2 positions so far. So Scott Murrell's down a couple of spots. He had a really strong qualifying despite inexperience with the racetrack, but I think that's come back to bite him a little bit in the race. And then we've got Zarlinger off the track at the C-section in 8th place. And he's the first guy 1 lap down. He's ahead of Rambo, who's just been lapped by Resist. And then we've got Rhodey in 10th place, and he's the last man, with Tyrrell having DNF'd on lap 8.
Very well done. So that's all of our 11 runners. We did have 12, but Sam Smith unfortunately had to leave early. And we haven't got Bagsy tonight, so wasn't able to get here for qualifying or race 1. He's in Perth, obviously, so they're on a fairly significant time delay, and he tends to work just a little bit later, so wasn't able to come along for this race, but hopefully we'll be back next round. Not that we'll be here, Stez.
No. Well, I've got to work next week, so it's all, we're all adulting nowadays, struggling to save a bit of money for this or that, as Bretton Foley rubs the wall there at Yeehaw.
Remember when it was like, oh, we should, do a movie night or whatever. It's like, yeah, what night are you free? And everyone, whatever. And it was positively easy to find a night when everyone was free to do something, or a day to do it.
When are you free? The answer used to be a week
when am I
night,
not free?
A Friday night, is Saturday night, Sunday night. Now it's been, I might be able to squeeze it in towards the back end of November, but that's a bit optimistic if I'm frank. Yeah, adulting.
Yep.
We should do
of course,
a movie night.
We should do a movie night, and I'll make some homemade Baileys for the occasion.
Late November, chalk it up. Chalk it in, don't pen it in.
Chalk it in.
Chalk it in.
Finger paint it in.
Or a chalkboard.
Well, you've got the whiteboard.
We could really old school it up next year with a chalkboard.
Oh my god, I don't know if I could handle the noise.
Nails on a chalkboard.
I'll just chalk on a chalkboard.
You don't like
set
that?
my teeth on edge, to be honest. No.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you keep losing my whiteboard marker lids, then I might not have an option.
I'm very sorry. I don't know what came over me, and I'm happy to replace the whiteboard markers.
It was definitely a segment that made up for it in its impact.
I'm glad. I'm very glad to hear it. And good thing we didn't need to use those little car magnets again.
No.
Because I reckon I rooted them.
That's all right.
Brenton Foley, while we've been waffling, has extended his lead out to 5 seconds. So not only has he taken the lead, he's now extending it. Last time out, he was about 0.8 of a second faster than Xeris. So this is turning into a bit of a dominant display from Brenton Foley with 2 minutes left to run.
Yeah, this is Xeris getting beaten in a way that we haven't seen very often at all. We've seen people beat him by somehow through some fate of luck or whatever, getting ahead of him and then holding on for grim dear life as Xeris crawls all over the back of them and tries to get the position back. But this is Foley reeling Xeris in, passing him on pace, and then pulling away from him, with Xeris seemingly unable to respond.
Yeah, you said in qualifying that Xeris's pole lap was a statement, showing that we see Rhodey throw it off the course, but not into the wall. Luckily for him, at the last corner. You said that his pole lap was a statement. I reckon this is Brenton Foley's return statement.
Roadhog's just spun and has conceded 4th place to Netherelmian.
Man, so Nether's been quietly achieving, hasn't he?
He's been having a great night.
Got a couple of positions off the start, and then he's just sort of been sticking with the top few. As we see if we can find a replay here of what happened to. So that was coming through. Try to stop. Just the car just did not want to stop and just continued going around as if the corner kept going.
Well, I think Nether's a lot closer in that than we saw him before, so I think he was gradually catching up to Roadhog as it was, and that sort of scoreboard pressure, if you like. Roadhog would have been seeing that gap coming down and feeling like he had to push, and that may well have just have forced the error.
Got 16 seconds left in this race, and then a lap. So I reckon under 10 seconds now. I reckon we will have 20 laps of Casbah Milne.
Yeah,
because the timer is about to elapse.
Yeah, he's just coming into the final corner now, and the timer has just hit 0. But fair to say the top two are completely in a league of their own. Foley, I don't think Xeris has fallen off at all. I just think Foley has really stepped it up a notch this season and found a set of cars that really suit him. But look at the gap, 30 seconds ahead of the next fastest man, Resist, in 3rd place.
This is some Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen over the rest of them kind of pace that they're showing. Ike Shepherd just in the chat saying, just speaks to Xeris's talent that not absolutely dominating is remarkable, and that's a very good point. Just losing multiple races in a row is considered to be something worth remarking on. Xeris has been.
Yeah, it's unusual.
Sorry,
yeah, I was just going to say it's unusual, but we have seen in the DRM season, which he eventually came back to win. He didn't get his first win until the 5th round of that championship, and then he was almost unbeatable. So, I don't want to say anything too soon, but you never count out Xeris, even when he's seemingly got no response right now.
Definitely not that. There were other factors at play. DRMs was a very complicated season in terms of the different cars' abilities and pit strategies, etc. And I think it took him quite a while to sort of come to grips with the strengths of the 320 over the other cars, because he let the sportsman that he is, as Brenton Foley comes through the last corner,
he's going to negotiate
avoiding
spinning Scott Murrell. But this is the final corner. Flashes the light. Brenton Foley, the most winningest driver in this championship, claims his 4th win of the championship, and that's more wins in this championship than he had before this championship started. Xeris comes home in 2nd place and Resist a further 30 seconds behind him.
So 4 wins from 7 races so far for Brenton Foley. That's nothing to sneeze at in a championship that has, oh my goodness, as I've just seen Scott Murrell absolutely poleaxe himself into a wall. But as Brenton Foley lays down what is left of his rubber.
So this is going to be Resist's first podium of the season. Sorry, Madbird. First podium for him.
No, that's fine. I was just...
We'll get his first 4th place finish. That's his best result of the season as well.
I was just... I'd assumed that Resist had already crossed the line, but that was the gap that they had over 3rd place man Resist, is that he only just came across the line as you were saying that. Netherelmian in 4th. Roadhog ends up coming home in 5th, which is 1 position down from where he started. Probably a little bit disappointed with that effort. And Goofball Antics, we're not going to be able to have his antics on the podium this time around, as he comes across the line to finish in 6th. Scott Murrell finished a lap down in 7th. Zarlingier a lap down in 8th, and Irambo a lap down in 9th, with Rody, the last man on track, a lap down in 10th, and Tyrrell, of course, DNFing on lap 8. As Brenton Foley continues his victory lap, destroying what is left of those tyres, and just showing what sort of car control he has. But I do have the podium sitters filtering in for a little bit of a chat. And first off, we've got third place man Resist with his first podium of the season. It has been a little while since we talked to you, buddy, but it's good to have you back. How did you find this very bizarre circuit?
Oh, bloody hell. Time. But no, like, I think not having Berto and Sam in the service certainly helps my chances of getting up on the podium. But as far as the circuit goes, I always love a Roadhog track. I have fond memories of each and every one of them. So, yeah, happy to be back on the podium.
Yeah, we did. Me and Stez and I did say, actually, pre-race that you sort of... maybe not a Roadhog track specialist, but you do seem to gel quite well with them. You got a podium at Hollowham, I think, and you had a pretty decent showing at Place City Circuit in the Caterhams. So,
Paul's got maiden race with ARW. So
there you go. Yeah. So Roadhog tracks always have a bit of a special place in your heart.
Yeah, say that.
Well, anyway. Congratulations on your podium, and I did call you for a win before the race start, so you didn't bring that home for me. But maybe in the second race. Congratulations, Resist. Turning now to second place man Xeris, who you seem to have the race pretty much on your terms for the first stint, although Brenton Foley was closing you in. And then through the pit stops, he managed to get ahead, and looked like you had a bit of a messy lap as you tried to attack him on his outlap, and you just never managed to recover. Talk us through your race.
Well, as you said, I felt like I was controlling it for the first half, and then after I pit, the car just felt completely different, and I couldn't get control of the rear anymore. So I just kept falling back and back. And that's pretty well it. Kept making small mistakes because the rear kept coming around. So going into the next race, I'm going to adjust my strategy a little and maybe make some setup changes.
Did you end up changing tyres at all, or did you keep them on throughout the entire race?
I kept them on because that pace was so close that I don't think I could make the gap up if I was on fresh tyres. So yeah, that was the way to go.
Fair enough. So that makes it 4 races from 7 that Brenton Foley has won. So he's eclipsed yourself. Are you enjoying having a decent fight for the championship lead?
Yeah, absolutely. I love racing Foley. He's good and fair, and he's ragged.
Ragged is not the word that I used to describe him in a race in the DRMs once, but we'll run with it. Congratulations regardless on your second place, and good luck in the second race.
Thank you.
And turning to that man, Brenton Foley, very well done, mate, with a pretty dominant win in the end in terms of seconds on the board, considering how close you guys were for the first stint. How did you find your win and overtaking Xeris? Like, did the car seem like it changed in the pit stops, like you said, or did you seem to have a bit more of a better handle on it?
My car pretty much stayed the same, to be honest. Xeris was on a completely different strategy fuel-wise to me, and he spoke about that after the race. But yeah, my car stayed the same. I actually thought it was going to end that way, but Beast swapped over because I thought that I was using my tyres a lot more chasing him in the first stint. I did not think that he would have struggled with tyres towards the end. I thought it was going to be me.
Yeah, we did comment on that. It seemed like because we were talking about how you managed to jump him in the pit stops, whether one of you may have opted not to take tyres, but that it was Xeris who was the one who looked like, if that had been the case, who chose not to take tyres despite coming out behind you. So Did you end up just taking a little bit less fuel? Is that how you jumped him in the pit stops?
Yeah, pretty much. I think he may have said that he didn't start with full fuel, whereas I did, so I took a little bit less in the stop. And yeah, as I've kind of said before, I'm okay with without grip at the rear. So yeah, so far I haven't taken tyres at all this season, and if the track permits, that's going to be the plan.
It seems to be working out for you. That's 4 wins from 7 races. Do you reckon you can make it 5 from 8?
I hope so. I've got to have a good first stint and really just take care of the car, because it's extremely hard to pass on this track. It's either you're going to make the spot up in the pits or kind of scare the other person or hope that they make a bit of a mistake. So I know that in the first stint, next race, depending on who gets the jump, if I get the jump off the start, Xeris is probably going to hassle me and attack me for pretty much the most of the stint, which is not what I want, but we'll see how it goes.
No worries. Congratulations again, and good luck for race number 2.
Thanks very much.
Well, Stairs, what did you think of that race?
Well, it played out similarly to the second race last week, didn't it? And it's starting to set a little bit of a trend. It'll be interesting to see whether Xeris' setup changes and different strategy will be able to make up for what happened in race 1. I'll be very intrigued.
Yeah, I'm interested in how the car would have felt so different if I can only think that unless he had like the brake bias accidentally set to change in some way in the pit stops, or just the car behaves differently with a full tank on warning.
A little bit colder as well. He's been in the pits, and so they don't cycle back up to temperature in the same way that he's used to. Don't know. Foley said the exact opposite in his interview, that his car felt the same. So that is I guess one of those quirks of racing.
Yes. Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to watch in the second race, which is going to get going in just a few minutes. Scott Murrell just hopping in the chat saying, "Didn't think it was possible to hate these cars more than I do until I drove it out on this track with them." Lol.
Well, that's a big rip.
Despite that, I will shine a little spotlight on Scott. That he did say last week that this has been one of the best, if not the best, series he's competed in, even though these cars are effing terrible. The driving by everyone is brilliant and doesn't make you feel like smashing your head against a wall. So that's it might not be high praise, but I think we'll take it. It's we're always happy to hear. Yeah, exactly, and we're a glutton for any sort of positive feedback.
And lay it on me.
It's lather it.
Yeah, just
lather it across me.
Like melted ice cream on a warm summer's beach.
Delicious. Oh my god.
Just that Neapolitan ice cream just curdling in Mars. Crap. But I digress.
My god. Holy hell. That is not what I was expecting. Oh my goodness.
Can't come back soon enough.
Oh, I wish I had an aircon in this room.
It's a warm night. It's not as warm as yesterday was, though. I said as you were taking a sip.
No, it's a sip. It is a bit muggy due to the rain and storm that we've had, though. That combined with the heat is sort of. I'm sure there is a nice breeze, but I am unfortunately insulated from that.
It's an unusual sort of weather pattern for Adelaide. I'm sure those of our viewers from the northern states, Queensland and Northern Territory, will probably go. at it, but we did have quite the sizable storm in Adelaide last night, and it lasted for quite a long time. I was sitting out on the deck watching the light show as the thunder rolled in earlier in the evening, and then I was woken up later on, early in the morning, about 5 o'clock, by more thunder and lightning.
Yeah, my partner Mel was also woken up quite early by the thunder. I slept straight through it because, you know, that's the sort of Chad I am.
I have slept through a smoke alarm, but I managed not to sleep through this.
You slept? Oh my goodness.
It's probably not something that is to be desired, but it has happened.
No, that is sort of I imagine the point of a smoke alarm's annoying high-pitched screeching noise is that it would wake someone from sleep. You would hope, anyway.
You would hope. Shall we sneak a break in before race 2?
Bloody hell, yes. I need to fill my water bottle back up.
All right. Well, we'll take a break. We had quite a setup a couple of weekends ago for the Bathurst 1000 for Automobilista supercars, and here's Madbird just showing how that setup came together.
Well, it's been an exciting year of racing, hasn't it? And my...
Hello, everybody. Welcome backstage for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000 stream.
3 seconds. All right, have a drink. It's 2 minutes.
Apex Rear Wing. This is just to give you a little look at our setup for the race today. So we've got our big main camera here, which is shooting our desk there. So that's when we're to camera, doing our little wrap-ups and stuff. That's where we're going to be. We've got these lovely green things, just sort of fake foliage to give us a bit of sound muffling, and also some very classy flamingo designs. We've got James behind the camera, currently filming me as I'm speaking. Over here, we've got Stairs currently doing something very important before the stream begins. And indeed, he's got some gaffer tape, so we won't interrupt him. But if you just come over here, you can see the enormous setup that we have. We've got 4 monitors, one of which is a TV, on which you can see Maddie Dunlop and Josh Bagsy. Bagsy is currently completing a Rubik's Cube, so you can see we're intelligent and talented here at Apex Rear Wing. So we've got 3
Can't tell where my skin starts
3
and my
mics.
ass
We've
stops.
got a switcher. We have got 4 monitors. We're going to have 3 computers running. If you just come down here really quick, you can see we've got
enough.
1 computer over here.
Yeah.
And then we've got
Took a
another
while
one
to sink
here.
in, I think. I thought
And
you
then
were
we've got a
okay,
third
and then
one over
you,
here.
you weren't.
So lots and lots of technology back here. The 21st century, isn't it? So, and then through this door over here, if you just have we probably don't need to go in there, but if you just pop over here, James, and just have a sneaky peek through there, you'll be able to see that is our Kart FX bunker, where we've got Michael Zalavari doing some very important work on the whiteboard. So that's just a quick little brief look at the backstage here for the Automobilista Supercars Championship Bathurst 1000, and hope you've enjoyed.
So that was our setup for the ASC Bathurst 1000, preceded by 3 seconds of Matt Dunlop's Tim Tam slam because of a little bit of finger trouble on my part.
Yep. And sometimes never mind.
Yeah, where were you going with that?
I was desperately in my brain trying to figure out a way to work finger trouble into C-section. But I wasn't. My brain was not swift enough.
Fingering is what you do if you don't want a C-section 9 months from now.
Yeah, I guess so.
Or,
I guess that's.
yeah.
I guess that works. It wasn't the best thing to attempt. I'll admit, but nevertheless, I did try it.
We get ourselves into trouble, man, Bird, when Matt Dunlop's not
we
around.
do, don't we? Just, but you know what I can do to get us out of trouble.
Take us through the grid.
Thank you. Yes, Brenton Foley starts out from pole position after a dominant win in the end in race number 1, taking it from Xeris through the pit stops and then extending outwards. So will he be able to extend his advantage in this second race from the lead, or will it maybe be a reversed result with the man behind him here, Xeris, making the position and taking the win? Sort of on the back foot in this championship, Xeris. Can he take the fight back to Brenton Foley? Resist behind him in third place. Bit of a Roadhog track specialist, and hopefully is able to get a decent start and close in on the two in front, who had about a 30-second lead to him by the end of the race. Now, the Romian starting out of fourth with a very good first race, getting the elbows out, but he is going to have the track designer Roadhog right behind him in fifth place. So Roadhog probably hoping for a better result in the second race here. Goofball Antics starting out of sixth place. Bit of an up and down race for him. He started out around sixth, dropped back to eighth or ninth, and managed to find his way back up to sixth. So hopefully a bit of a more consistent race for him. Scott Murrell in the guest car, saying that he didn't think it was possible to hate these cars more than he did until he drove them on this track. He is starting out of seventh after a bit of a messy first race. Zarlinger starting out of eighth in the other United Somalian Soviet Republic's car. Behind him is Irambo, who also had a bit of a messy one last time out. Rhodey starts from 10th, and it looks as if Tyrrell has cooled enough and gone out for a drink and an early night's rest, having not joined for race number 2.
Yes, he'll be back. I'm sure he'll be watching along if he's not in bed at whatever time it is in Perth right now.
Well, like 2 p.m.
Oh, yeah. The previous Wednesday.
It's a significant time difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. You cross several time zones over the Nullarbor. So the revs are rising, Madbird. We're about to get racing for the second time here at Casbah Milne. Away they go. It's an even start from the top two. And
Xeris actually getting a much better start, getting past, going into turn 1, ahead of Brenton Foley. So a very good start there for Xeris.
Yeah, I saw him get quite a good jump. And in the end, Foley was happy to slot in behind. So there's a little bit of side-by-side action there behind between Goofball Antics, who gets the job done. Scott Murrell again going side-by-side with Roadhog, which we saw at the start of race number 1.
Yeah, they seem to be glued together going through that first turn. So Brenton Foley pushed down into second place. Can he repeat his performance in the first race and just close in on Xeris through this first stint? Resist doing quite well to stick with them so far, as we see a little bit of action at the back.
Yeah, Zarlinger and Rambo both wide at the exit of the C section, which has allowed Rhodey through, and Rambo and Zarlinger demoted a spot each.
Yeah, so Rhodey up 2 places from his start. Very well done. Goes a little bit defensive at try to stop and manages to hold on to that position. Just looking at Zarlinger. And this battle between Rhodey and Irambo coming down into I Don't Bloody Care. Rambo peeks out.
Yeah, a little bit of a look there from Rambo, and thought better of that one. So battles going on up and down the field in this first lap. But the top 3 as they finished... Oh, that's wide from Rhodey. He gets it back on track in preparation for the next corner, but he's got himself compromised on the inside as Rambo completely neglects to take the corner and goes off at Adelaide hairpin.
And now Zarlinger can lock his eyes on the rear bumper of Rhodey and see if he can do what Irambo was not able to do. Gap at the front about a second between Brenton Foley and Xeris.
1 second, 1 lap in the books. They both gapped Resist, and Resist himself has gapped Nether just a little bit. Is that wide?
Very messy for Brenton Foley. Going very messy through a couple of the corners in the C section for Brenton Foley. Just completely thrown off his rhythm by the looks of it. See if we can get a replay of it here.
I just caught that out of the corner of my eye, and he got a lot of speed through into the first part. He completely just sort of got offline for the rest of it.
Yeah, it looks
as bad in the replay as I thought, to be honest. But
I think it's very much a rhythm section of corners.
Yeah, and he got the rhythm wrong from the first beat.
He did. Very well done. So he's lost a little bit of time there to Xeris, but not too much. He's still within a couple of seconds. Probably still under 2 seconds even. Whoa! Oh, I thought there was going to be a huge accident, sorry, between Scott Murrell and Goofball Antics. Scott Murrell closing at a huge rate of speed coming to I Don't Bloody Care, but he managed to get it pulled up in time. I thought he was for sure going to spear into the side of Goofball Antics.
It's a long way back looking at this replay, but oh my goodness.
So he could just completely forgot to brake.
They made the corner though without too much duress, so perhaps Goofball Antics is taking a cautious approach to the that's not I Don't Bloody Care. That's Try to Stop, of course.
No, that was I Don't Bloody Care.
Oh, was it?
Because it was Wi-Fi password next. Roadhog managing to get past Scott Murrell as they tangled again down the start-finish straight. They seem to be attracting one another at that particular part of the track.
Roadhog in the hot car.
Hot Marlboro hot.
No teammate tonight in Decimage.
No, Decimage is not able to come.
A busy boy.
I think he's going to be another infrequent racer due to busy schedules.
So we've sort of reached an early holding pattern. With Xeris out in the lead by nearly 2 seconds on Brenton Foley, very similar to what we saw in race 1. It was very much Xeris's to lose in the sense in the first race that he had resist between himself and Brendan Foley, but Brendan Foley got up to pace fairly quickly, and it wasn't until about a third of the race in race 1 that we really saw Foley become the stronger of the two. In fact, Foley's just got through. What's happened there?
Oh my goodness. Xeris must have had a...
Oh, side by side through one. And Xeris wipes the wall through Yeehaw. And Foley is in the lead. So somewhere Xeris has lost some time. And just as I was talking about him, there's been a switch for the lead.
Yeah, when I looked over at our other screen, it looks like Brenton Foley's letting Xeris back through. So maybe due to that tussle going through Yeehaw, he felt like he was the one at wrong. If he gets another warning, he will receive a penalty after his warning last time out at Interlagos. Here's a replay. So did Xeris just get a very bad Adelaide hairpin?
He went wide.
Yes.
Onto the grass, in fact.
Completely unforced error.
So the redress must have been for what happened at 1.
Yeah,
and of course,
I
Brenton
reckon...
Foley doesn't want to take any chances with this championship, so I think he tagged Xeris in the back just a little bit, and that caused Xeris to go into the fence. I don't think that warrants a warning personally, but of course he doesn't want to take any risks.
Yeah, no, he's given it back, and he's still within a second. And I think if it was unsure before whether Xeris is feeling a bit of pressure from Brenton Foley, I think that doubt has now dissipated, because that was a complete unforced error for Xeris at the Adelaide hairpin.
Well, I wonder if he's carrying any damage from that tussle with the wall.
They've been sort of swiping it on semi-regularly, so I'd say that they should be okay. In the chat just saying, you said earlier that someone was going to try it on through turn 1. I was expecting it to be a lot more dramatic than that, to be honest. I was expecting a huge accident.
Well, they're both two of the best drivers in this league, so if any of them could do it and get away with it, then it would be these two.
Now, draw your attention to Netherelmian, who has been defending from... I was about to bring it up when that big switch happened between Brenton Foley and Xeris, but Nether has been defending from Goofball Antics for about 4 or 5 laps, and he's doing quite well to hold him in that 4th place.
A bit of a train forming there with Goofball Antics, Roadhog and Scott Murrell all there. We've had Roadie DNF somewhere, so the Rhodium dream is over in this race.
Oh no, hashtag Rhodium.
Oh dear. It was at 1.
Was it?
It was at
Was it dramatic?
Well, the wheel parted company. He's completely offline already. There.
Oh Jesus!
How that's happened. Let's go on board.
I don't know if any of our viewers watch speed runs, but but the way that tyre just appeared on the other side of the wall is very much like a glitch that you would use in a speed run to skip half a level. So that tyre decided to skip half the pit lane. Brenton Foley right on the back of Xeris as they come down the start-finish straight. Another messy Adelaide hairpin by the looks of it for Xeris. But Brenton Foley not quite able to get up alongside. On that particular lap, Brenton Foley was 0.3 of a second quicker than Xeris.
Now they're in the pits, and so is Goofball Antics.
Goofball having to swerve out of the way as he followed Nether.
Zara in the back of that shot going wide as well.
Goofball Antics, did Goofball Antics stop? Because he's...
Yeah,
It looks...
when we cut to that shot, he was getting going.
Oh, okay. I didn't actually see him stationary. I thought he might have just given himself a voluntary drive-through for some reason. So, all right. My concern is assuaged.
So what is the pit lane speed limit?
I reckon it's 60.
Okay.
Because I did jump on board last race with Brenton Foley, and I kept an eye on his speedo as he went through the pit lane, and he was keeping it at 60.
Right.
I think most of the tracks it's either 60 or 80. So it could even be 80, and Foley was just being very careful with it, but I wouldn't think so.
Okay, because I'm just looking at some of the onboards of some of the drivers, and if it is 60, then they're not following the speed limit.
I reckon.
I believe if it's 70 or 80, then that's what they're roughly keeping to. So if it's 80, then I think most of them will be all right.
All right. It very possibly is 80.
Okay. 'Cause if it's not,
most
I think
of the
some
tracks,
people might be in trouble.
the tracks that we've been doing have generally been 60 in practice and 80 in the race.
Okay.
And I will admit I didn't have the most eagle eye look at Brenton Foley's speedo. I just glanced at it for a few seconds, so he could have easily been in the middle of something else and not thinking about his speed and just making sure he was keeping it under the limit rather than on the limit. So I guess we'll probably wait and see when these two pit. We'll keep an eye on what sort of speed they do, because they're probably the two that are most likely to do it right.
Now, this is a very important part of the championship for Xeris to start to wrestle back control, because although there is time left in this championship, he's got to start to stem the bleeding at some point. And he's currently got a 32-point deficit to Brenton Foley. If he can turn that around right now, then it'll be pretty much an even in terms of odds going forward, I would have thought. But if Brenton Foley can get the better of Xeris again in this race, then that gap comes up again. That gap comes up again by another 15 points, up towards 47, as opposed to going down to 17.
Yeah, and it's a very different. As well, actually, we might wait because Xeris nearly swiped the pit entry wall there, and Brenton Foley is right on the back of him as they come down into Yeehaw, and isn't able to do anything. Obviously, that would have been suicide. But that gap is hovering at about 0.3 of a second at the moment, which is very, very little, especially considering the benefit of Brenton Foley's pit stop. Although it goes very deep at turn 2, that'll cost him a bit of time.
But Xeris is a bit wide into the C section, and that allows Foley to just close up a little bit as well.
This is, I was going to say, this is a very different sort of challenge for Xeris, whereas the seasons where Xeris has struggled early on and then come good towards the end have been usually sort of strategy or odd. Like the 320 was a very interesting car to handle strategically in the DRMs, which is why it took him a while to come to terms with it. Whereas,
How did he get that stopped?
my goodness.
I thought he was going straight off the racetrack there.
What was I saying? Oh, but this just seems to be just the driving style is not something that Xeris is capable of doing as well as Brenton Foley is. Not yet, exactly. So, but Brenton Foley often he struggles early on in a season and then comes good towards the end. So, it's sort of uncharted territory for him in that he's doing quite well from the outset.
I thought Xeris looked like he was going into the pits there, but he just drifted right of the pit entry as they went through. They're both very, very close to the exit there. Oh, sorry, the wall on the exit of the Yeehaw corner. So they're driving very, very much to the best of their abilities right now.
Just confirmation down in the chat from Rody. Just that the pit lane speed limit is 80 kilometers per hour.
Okay, the drivers I was looking at are in the clear then.
And we also had Rambo, looks like DNF. When was that? Last lap by the looks of it. Not sure what happened there.
So that's a bit of a shame for Rambo. We've seen Roadhog come into the pits in the last lap as well. So he's currently circulating in about 6th place. Well, in 6th place. He can't be about a position.
Oh, Scott Murrell, very messy going through the C section.
This is Rambo's... Oh, he's blown his engine coming into the Adelaide hairpin there.
Oh, no. Done a, what's the term? Money shift.
That is uncomfortably quiet. You can hear the birds. Back to the leading two.
Uncomfortably quiet, much like the Adelaide hairpin at the moment.
Yes, it's just like in real life.
I was planning on playing something and just listening to this, but I can't because these two have been close enough to cuddle all races like Shepherd. Yeah, it's not the sort of battle that you can really look away from. They're not tearing time out of each other like crazy, but it's a very close arm wrestle. And like the second I cut away from them for a couple of seconds to see what Nether and Goofball's battle was looking like, is when that big drama happened. So I'm now terrified to look anywhere else.
This was an issue that I often found was annoying whenever I used to race, and if I was lucky enough to get myself ahead of Xerus in a race where there were pit stops, it was very, very difficult to know when to pull the trigger on the pit stop because he had so much extra pace. If he pitted on a different lap to you, he could quite easily either under or overcut you in the pits, and this is the problem now that Xerus faces with Foley, who seems to have a bit of pace in hand.
Yeah, that cog showing up on Foley's screen would imply that he might be coming into the pits, and seems to just be so much tidier going through try to stop, whereas Xerus is sideways just a little bit on every single lap. Brenton Foley ducks out to almost have a little peek, maybe put the thought in Xerus's mind that he might have been going down the inside. Does not do so.
But I don't bloody care, really unsettles the car. You saw the thing just turn on a dime when Xerus's car hit that curb. All the way sideways through Wi-Fi password. And on this occasion...
Brenton dives in.
Brenton dives in. Hope he's down to 80.
So, looking for the undercut for Brenton Foley as Xerus continues on for his lap, and then I would expect we'd probably see Xerus coming in this time next lap.
He has to.
At this rate.
Now this is the opposite.
Exactly.
To what they did last race. Last race it was Xerus who pulled the trigger first on the pits. This race it's Foley.
Although this time around, Resist has managed to almost jump the first pit stopper. Was not quite able to do so and has had to slot in behind Brenton Foley. I don't think Resist has made his pit stop yet.
Yeah, Resist must... This is almost exactly what the gap was to Resist the last time they did this. So
that must be frustrating.
They have eked the first stint out just enough so that they had enough of a gap to pit and come out in front of Resist.
You'd think they have a Mercedes pit wall, figuring out where they're going to be able to slot into a gap with that sort of precision.
Well, it's hammer time for Xerus right now. If he's got any pace in hand, it's the time to bring it out. Because if he can emerge from the pits in the lead of this race, then half the job is done. The other half, of course, is staying ahead.
Well, it was a bad first sector for Foley, of course, because he had his exit of the pit lane. He was only about a tenth of a second down through the second sector. Remains to be seen what Foley's last sector was like as he comes down towards the Adelaide hairpin. Xerus has just begun moving once again in the pit lane. So it actually looks like... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying you could see Foley in the back of the shot there. Xeris is just coming to the end of the pit lane. Here comes Foley, though, up to speed through. Yeehaw! Mighty, mighty tight, but Xeris has emerged in the lead. Foley will have the fresher tyres for about half a lap. He'll have that hot tyre advantage over Xeris with the new tyres.
Yeah, and this is almost a complete opposite of what happened last race, with Brenton Foley now attacking Xeris with 1 lap under his belt on those tyres, whereas Xeris has just come out of the pits. So Brenton Foley climbing all over the back of Xeris, and it's coming up here at try to stop where we saw Xeris come unstuck in his attack on Brenton Foley last race. So can Brenton Foley keep it tidy and then maybe have a run down into I don't bloody care? And I do care. I care greatly.
Well, this is where if I was partisan in this, I wish I could give Xeris a bit of advice, because I have a lot of experience in defending from him, but he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's usually the attacker, not the defender.
I reckon Brenton Foley's best opportunity is to just keep this pressure on, and Xeris not as good on these worn tyres as Brenton Foley is, just force an error. There's still 11 minutes left in this race, and as they said in the podium interviews, it's very hard to make an on-track overtake unless there's a error on the behalf of one of the drivers. The gap is only 0.2 of a second. They're almost overlapping as they come down towards Yeehaw. It is a terrifying corner to watch from the onboard.
Opala has played a bit of a masterstroke with his pit stop. He came in on lap 5 and has managed to jump resist through the pit stops.
Yes, resist about 1.5 seconds behind Goofball Antics. So, Brenton Foley so close to the back of Xeris coming into the C section.
Yeah, that's a toy.
Toy.
Well, Xeris is going to have to deal with this for the rest of the race, and so we're really going to see how he deals with pressure right now. He's got 10 minutes left in order to try and keep Brenton Foley behind and hope that the advantage that Foley has over him somewhat equalises and Xeris can get up to pace.
Well, the issue for Xeris last race was that the car apparently was just behaving completely differently after the pit stops, whereas at the moment he seems to be as comfortable as he was before the pit stops. How comfortable that is exactly is difficult to quantify, but he isn't losing time hand over fist like he was after the pit stops last race.
Well, there's not any time to lose, because if Foley can't get past him, he's trapped. And that gap is sort of staying at around about sort of 0.3 to half a second. Very, very close through the Adelaide hairpin there. But it's at this point of the race where you think, oh God, there's no way I can keep him behind. But you just try, okay, think of it corner by corner, lap by lap. And every lap you keep the guy in front of you behind, or behind you behind, as they negotiate Zalinger, who's just come out of the pits. Every lap you manage to stay ahead is a bonus, and the more laps that go by and you're still ahead of the guy who's behind you, the more confidence you get, and you think, actually, maybe I can do this. And you definitely get a lot of sweat doing that, as Xeris really hangs the tail out through there. 2 wheels up in the air for Foley.
Yeah, they're both driving the absolute hell out of these things, trying to get an advantage on one another. And probably the best place to have an error going into the C section, because there is nowhere to overtake through those 5 or 6 corners.
And actually, that's benefited Xeris a fair bit. He's managed to stretch out quite a few car lengths on Foley,
about
down the back straight.
Almost a second, actually, the gap now. 0.7 of a second.
And
We've got 8 minutes and 20 seconds left.
It's when that car behind has a bit of an error that you see what its advantage is, because you'll see how quickly he reels the leading car back in. It gives Xeris, though, a little bit of breathing room for half a lap or so, unless Foley doesn't have as much of a pace advantage as we thought. But it is down to 0.6 already, down to 0.5, and yeah, you can see he's really clawed that back through the final sector.
Yeah, he's pretty much back on him once again.
Not quite as close as a lap ago, but he's definitely got a pace advantage right now. And the other thing, as the leading car, you do take less risks than the car that's chasing and attacking, and it's got your braking marker as a reference.
does make a big difference. I in the DRM season, I had quite a bit of experience. Not that I was particularly happy about the experience, but I had a lot of experience of keeping Brenton Foley behind, and he is a very terrifying driver to see in your rearview mirror because that car dances in ways that it should not be able to. Xeris is right in that he's a very clean racer. He's a very fair racer. If he punts you off, then he will give the position back.
That's right.
But ragged was the term Xeris used, and it is disconcerting to see a car all over the place just behind you on track because every single corner you're thinking, oh god, he's going to take me out here, and it very rarely happens, but you're constantly thinking it regardless.
I raced Foley years ago, probably when he was still quite new to sim racing in AMS Oz. We did a GT3 race in Adelaide, and I had some problem, and what's up?
Foley, he's blown his engine.
Oh no!
Oh
He
no!
has.
I just saw the flames spark out as he came down towards the hairpin, and he's pulled off and into the pits.
Unbelievable!
Sorry to cut across you.
What a reprieve for Xeris, but what a shame for us, because that race was absolutely hotting up. Brenton Foley is going to score no points in this race. And this is the story, ladies and gentlemen. What an absolute disaster for Brenton Foley. He's absolutely on the limit, clearly. That's the first engine first engine blown up that I think we've seen in this series, if I'm not wrong.
I reckon you're completely right. He has pulled into the pits, but the car will not be able to be fixed. And there he goes back into his garage. Not that there are garages here. And oh my goodness. So what an absolute free kick for Xeris, because that is maximum points for Xeris at this stage and no points for Brenton Foley in this second race, which is about the best thing you could hope for.
Yeah, there it is. Down at Adelaide hairpin. Just, I guess, slammed down the gears a little bit too eagerly, and that is mightily disappointing. I was about to say that if Xeris manages to hold Foley off for the rest of the race, it will be one of the most satisfying victories ever. But I think Xeris will be the first to tell you how disappointed he would have been that happened to Brenton Foley right then, because it's a relief right in the moment, but afterwards you'll be like, oh, well, that's quite a huge shame. And here he is now.
That's a very Xeris outlook to have. So I imagine that'll be the exact emotion that he's feeling is disappointment. We've got an F in the chat from Roadies Racing. Brenton Foley will be classified with an 8th place because he has completed over 75% of the race distance. So it won't be no points for him, but it'll definitely be a lot less than second.
Actually, that does make a huge difference because points do go down quite a long way. They get points down to 15th place, so 8th is actually 24 points. So that's a fair bit, considering that there's 75 on offer for a win in this race. So that 32... Oh! What's up?
So, Roadhog has had a big accident coming through turn 1. I was hesitating to mention that he was promoted onto the podium by Brenton Foley DNFing, and he's now off the podium. Oh, he was getting chased down by Resist and just swiped the wall. Yeah, and he's lost his boot lid.
That's two. It's 2 issues for him late in the race, and that race has come to an end fairly quickly. We're 3 minutes already from the end of this race. What a shame that Foley couldn't hang on for another 5 minutes or so.
Yeah, hopefully Roadhog's able to hold on to this 4th place with Netherelmian and Scott right behind him. Brenton in the chat just saying, didn't pull the gear hard enough, so I didn't go to 4th, and then I shifted down too early. So that's the tale of how he exploded his engine. As we see Roadhog.
Very neatly out of the way for Nether and Scott Murrell.
It was very close for Nether.
Those two are having quite a good battle. Scott Murrell and Nether. Nether again, he finished 4th in the first race, and he looks like he's on target to finish 4th again in the second race.
Goofball around at the Adelaide hairpin. He's going to rejoin just ahead of Resist. Actually, he didn't lose too much time there.
It's a bit more hair-raising now. He's in second place, which would be his best result of the season. He's got one second place in Interlagos and a few other third places. But I think you're eager to talk to him on the podium, because his podium interview post-race persona has been quite a revelation, almost as much as Brenton Foley's results.
He has been entertaining. That's for damn sure. And you never quite know what you're going to get from him. Brenton in the chat just saying 14 out of 20 is not 75%. Yeah, but we're basing off of it's a time.
Are we?
We're based off. We're based off. Well, the race distance is based off 30 minutes plus a lap, is it not? So, would the 75% be the time or the laps?
I always thought it was based on the number of laps. 75% distance, not 75% time.
That makes sense.
Well, we'll find out.
So I'm maybe wrong.
We'll find out, of course, depending on how many laps we end up doing. We're sort of extrapolating forwards and be about 20 laps.
Brenton Foley just saying that he finished 14 laps. He could have literally just rolled down to the line. He was 100 metres short of finishing that 14th lap to start the 15th lap, which would have ticked him over into 75%.
Glad I don't make the decisions.
Yes, indeed. Myself as well. But Xeris is currently on the penultimate lap, so yeah, we will have probably 20 laps once again, just like we did on the previous occasion. So in that case, Brenton Foley will not be gaining any points, which is a shame.
It's the difference between a 19-point deficit and a 43-point deficit.
Where would that leave? Where does that leave him in the championship if it ends as it is? Second, and so how big a deficit?
Second by 43 points if he doesn't score any points, and second by 19 points if he scores points for 8th place.
God, that's a big swing, isn't it?
It is a big swing, and it's actually quite similar. If he does get the 8th place, it's very similar to the gap that he went into this race with. But it could be a turning point in this championship. We'll see. We've got Xeris has just started, or just about to start, the last lap of the race, 20 of 20, and my goodness, he has an almighty lead.
Yeah, a probably insurmountable lead, I hesitate to say, over Goofball Antics.
Scott Murrell's just spun out of 5th place, which gives Nether a bit of a reprieve in 4th place. We've got the battle between Goofball Antics and Resist going on as well, which is currently being lost by Goofball Antics.
It's closed up, actually. Resist has caught up to him quite a bit as Goofball Antics gets a little bit leery coming out of the last corner. So Resist has got one lap to try to make that position and put himself one up from where he finished the previous race.
Xeris is just coming down the back straight right now, so just half a lap to go for Xeris in this particular race.
Oh, yeah, Goofball is going incredibly defensive at turn 2.
Yeah, he's played a strategy master stroke here with that early pit stop, because he was almost nowhere in race 1, and he's kept his nose out of trouble in this race, and he's just done a terrific job to get himself up into second, taking advantage, of course, of Foley's misfortune, and Roadhog spinning off behind him as well. But another strong result from Resist. We've got Xeris coming across to finish the race. And again, it's going to be even wins for Xeris and Foley across the board. They both have 4 wins now in this championship, but Xeris has the championship lead.
Resist and Goofball Antics coming to blows through try to stop. Both of them had their own accidents, and it looks like Goofball Antics has said, not fair enough, that one was my fault, and he's let Resist through, so it will be at this stage 3rd place for Goofball Antics and 2nd place for Resist, so Resist improving on his finish from the first race.
No celebrations from Xeris. He's gone straight to the garage, so I think...
Gutted.
Yeah. I can imagine why. He definitely feels for Foley with what happened with his engine there.
I feel for Foley, and hopefully he can come back strong next week out.
Now, here's the replay of what happened with Resist and Goofball Antics. I don't think Goof had to give that back. I think he's been overly generous with that, personally, but that's the way it went down, and I'm sure he'll give his explanation in a few moments when we have a chat to him. But we've had Nether finish in 5th, Scott Murrell in 6th, Roadhog in... Scott Murrell 5th, Roadhog 6th, and Zarlinger in 7th with the 3 DNFs in that race.
And podium sitters are filtering in, so first off, I'll talk to third place man, Goofball Antics. Ethy with a fantastic strategy in the end, pitting very early on, and then the race sort of just came to you. How did you find the race?
Yeah, it was fine. I was relying on people ahead to make mistakes, and they did. So, yeah, here we go.
Very good. It's a good strategy, and it seemed to work out well for you. There was a bit of a tussle with Resist on the last lap there, and it looked like you gave him the position. What happened there?
Yeah, lap before I tried a different line and it didn't quite work out, and then that last lap I realised when it was too late that I was trying the same line again, and got a little bit sideways, and he sort of ran into me a little bit as I was still trying to maintain control. And I just sort of went, like if I hadn't buggered up, he would have had a clear run through. So I was happy to give him the spot there.
That's very generous of you. But with you back on the podium again, and that is, you've only been off the podium twice so far this season. So your early confidence in the very first race seems to have been founded. You've ended up back in 3rd place in the championship. So, very well done with your podium position there, Goofball.
Cheers.
No worries, Matt, as we go over to Resist, who it looked like it was going to be pretty much carbon copy from the first race until the very end when you ended up having a good little battle with Heathy.
That's right. Heathy also skipped me in the pits as well. He had a good strategy, and I think I overfueled a bit, so he popped out in front. And then obviously had that spin, which I wasn't too happy about. But yeah, got back into it. So it's good scrap.
Good stuff. And another solid podium for you. So that's your 2nd podium on the trot. So 2 podiums this round. First podiums for the season. And that gets you up into 4th place in the championship. So very well done, Resist.
Yeah, can't complain about that. Thanks to Sam and Birdo. I assume they're the ones to have lost out.
I mean, Birdo has not been... he's only had the 1 podium so far this season, and Sam Smith has had 2 podiums this season. So it's not like it's not like they're always there and you've just picking up the scraps. You seem to have some decent pace tonight because you managed to pull a pretty big gap over the rest of the pack.
Yeah, I think being a track that no one's ever driven sort of equalises the field quite a lot. So it's good to see where you're at compared to everyone, because I think track knowledge is one of my biggest weaknesses.
Very well done. And, next time out we're in, I think, is that Laguna Seca?
Correct.
That we're doing an endurance race at? So you've definitely got a bit of experience there. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. It's been a while, but it should be alright. I remember driving it when I was a wee boy on Gran Turismo 2. So yeah, I think it'll just again come down to tyre wear and who can keep it under control, especially around the corkscrew and the corner before.
Absolutely. So congratulations on your podiums, and I hope to see some decent results for you next week.
Cheers.
Cheers. As we go over to Xerus, who no victory lap for you this time around, straight to the pits. Stairs and I suggested that you might have been a little bit disappointed with the way that your battle with Brenton Foley ended on this particular race.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm quite exhausted as well. It's a very tough track, but yeah, we had a great battle up until lap 14.8. unfortunately, he missed out on points this time around, so it's opened the championship wide up.
Yeah, 43-point lead now for you going into next round, which I gave him a slither of hope by saying that he had finished 75% on the broadcast, and he quickly dashed those hopes by reminding me that 14 out of 20 is not 75%. And it was almost the race was almost with the pit stops, it was almost exactly the opposite of what happened the previous race with him coming out just behind you and having to, or you, sorry, coming out just ahead of him and him having to attack you. But you seem to have a lot better grip on your car this time around.
Yeah, in the warm-up session, I made a couple of minor changes to make the car a lot more understeery during the first stint, and then that balanced out during the second stint. So it was quite good. And then we seemed to make mistakes at the same time, and that equalised us. But I think overall his pace was just slightly better than mine, so I got pretty lucky, I'd say.
Very good. So moving on to the first endurance race of the season at Laguna Seca. You confident around Laguna?
Oh yeah, it's a track I know pretty well. So yeah, I can picture a lot of difficult corners for rear tyres, so it should be interesting.
Very well done. With your first place finish and your 7th podium out of 8 races so far this season, and your newfound championship lead. Hopefully Brenton Foley can bring the fight back to you next round.
Yeah, I hope he does. Looking forward to it.
Thank you very much to all our podium sitters. And Stairs, what a interesting round of racing we've just had.
Yeah, the swings and roundabouts of season 10 continue. Just when we thought Brenton Foley was going to take a stranglehold on the championship lead, it all went the other way, and now Xeris finds himself with a 43-point advantage at the top of the points.
Yeah, so first endurance round of the season next time out at Laguna Seca, as we've said. So that will be that'll be 150 points for a win, 120 points for a second place, and so on and so forth down. So it'll be a complete hour-long race around Laguna Seca, and we won't be covering that, unfortunately, Stairs. But I can imagine that it will be it'll be an interesting race, an hour in these cars around Laguna Seca.
Yeah, if there's any consolation that Foley can take from tonight, it's that it happened in a super sprint race, the no points, and not the endurance race. So I'm sure he'll be very much aware of that mistake. It'll be in the back of his mind next week when he's racing, and he'll be very much eager not to repeat it. But yeah, if he can bounce back with a win in Laguna Seca, then it's championship game back on with another 4 rounds after that to go.
Absolutely, and Goofball Antics usually does stream his races as well, so we'll probably shove that up on the Facebook page. So if you reach next Wednesday and you're having a good day, and then you think, oh no, they're not going to have a stream tonight. Oh, that's my night ruined. Then never fret, because there will be some racing content for you to watch. It will just be probably a little bit less produced, and you'll hear all of the drivers' banter throughout the race. So we'll shove that up there for anyone that's interested in seeing how they all go out next week at Laguna Seca. But I think that's about it from us, Stairs.
That's right. We will catch you on the Apex Rear Wing channel in 2 weeks. We'll catch you up on everything that happened on Laguna Seca, but we'll come back for round 6, which is at Mosport in Canada, Canadian Tire Mosport. And
I love that track.
That'll be a sprint feature format again, so the 20-minute followed by 40-minute race format.
Very good. I'm very much looking forward to it, Stairs.
Me too. We'll see you then. Thank you very much indeed for joining our broadcast tonight. We'll see you next time. I've been Stairs.
I've been Madbird.
Bye for now.
Have a good night.
All right, done. What's still on? You fucking idiot.